It is the year 2167 and humanity's final stronghold has officially fallen to a brutal demon siege, leaving the battlefield in absolute ruins with one lone survivor pinned against a shattered stone pillar, who turns out to be Cheon, an SSS-rank lightning assassin covered in blood. A grim reminder of when the powerful demon King Lanhua first descended 7 years ago, leading a massive army to systematically wipe out humanity while mocking their pathetic resistance. And now the monstrous overlord prepares to drain the last of our hero's life essence, laughing maniacally as he decides to turn the dying warrior into his personal power boost, unleashing a terrifying red energy stream that violently extracts the remaining life force. But as the agonizing pain rips through Cheon's body, his mind flashes back, remembering his little sister, his fallen comrades, and his master who were all brutally taken away. Gritting his bloodied teeth, Cheon lets pure rage surge as crackling lightning erupts from his veins, determined to drag this arrogant demon king straight to hell with him by unleashing his final trump card, triggering his SSS rank ultimate skill, Terminus Light, which erupts into a blinding pillar of absolute destruction, leaving Lanhua completely paralyzed and screaming in sheer panic as the overwhelming energy locks him down. But this suicidal move comes at a cost, slowly dissolving our hero's body into pure starlight. As his consciousness fades, shattered memories of his beloved little sister and master flash before his eyes, followed by a heartbreaking vision of his parents as he prepares to join them in the afterlife, wishing with his very last breath that he had just been a little bit stronger, while the Demon King disintegrates into ash, utterly baffled that an inferior human actually managed to defeat him, leaving behind one final desperate wish to turn back the clock before the dungeons ever appeared, wishing he could have stopped the very first Demon King from ever crossing over. His consciousness completely dissolves into the blinding light of his final desperate sacrifice. But instead of meeting his ancestors, our boy suddenly snaps his eyes wide open, finding himself lying peacefully on a clean cot inside a quiet, sunlit room, sitting up in sheer disbelief as he realizes his body is entirely in one piece. Though the sterile, peaceful environment looks absolutely nothing like a blood-soaked battlefield, peering outside, he spots a bustling campus medical center filled with laughing, carefree students, a sight that makes his head spin since humanity was literally wiped out minutes ago, forcing him to stare blankly into a bathroom mirror to process this impossible reality, until the truth finally hits him. He has traveled 10 years back to his college days. Just as he tries to process this impossible situation, a strange buzzing sound echoes in his ears, followed by a glowing system notification declaring that the power of gluttony fusion is officially complete, confirming he has indeed traveled 10 years back in time to May 16th, 2157, which gives him exactly 3 years of prep time before the very first Demon King makes landfall. In his original timeline, the year 2160 marked the arrival of the first Demon King, Wrath, who tore open the gates of hell and paved the way for the rest of his monstrous buddies, triggering a brutal, decade-long apocalypse that systematically stripped our boy of everyone he ever cared about. But now that he has a second chance at life, he stares down at his unblemished hands, determined to hunt down Wrath and slam those hellish gates shut before the nightmare can even begin, though he still has absolutely no idea why a weird gluttony system screen is hovering in front of his face. Staring down at his open palm, a strange digital frequency begins to materialize right before his eyes, which suddenly solidifies into a floating holographic status window displaying his name and level 1 stats, showing a perfectly balanced spread of 100 points across every single basic attribute. A bizarre sight since he only ever relied on raw awakened instincts in his past life. In this world, awakening is a rare 1 in 10,000 miracle that grants specialized elemental classes. And his current school, the National University for Awakened Powers, only admits those with potential. Though back then, he was a talentless nobody who spent 4 years getting constantly beaten up. But just as he reminisces about his pathetic past, the system screen suddenly glitches violently, revealing a hidden archive file for the legendary lightning assassin class he once possessed, which instantly triggers memories of the devastating electrical powers he wielded in his previous life. Staring at his glowing system screen, Cheon wonders if he actually inherited his past life powers, prompting him to immediately initiate a class change to test out his current capabilities. But his focus is shattered when a brown-sweatered kid named Ma Long bursts through the door, rushing forward to grab our boy's shoulders while frantically asking if he is all right, leaving Cheon to casually reply while realizing that nobody else can see his floating system screen, which absolutely blows Ma Long's mind since our hero was beaten to a pulp just yesterday. Turns out this frantic glasses-wearing kid is actually his old college roommate, a low-tier E-rank flower chanter who was brutally murdered on the 3rd day of the future demon invasion. But seeing him alive and breathing finally makes the reality of this time travel trip sink in, until Ma Long suddenly shakes him, frantically reminding him that their crucial ranking test is tomorrow. Dragging our boy out the door, Ma Long insists that passing this test is crucial for their graduation, leading them out into the warm golden glow of a peaceful campus afternoon, a lively scene filled with students casually practicing their magic and showing off their skills. while others play soccer and jog around the track without a single care in the world. Staring at the crowd, Shichen quietly remarks on how long it has been since he saw so many living people, which completely confuses Ma Long, who nervously suggests they just stick to walking around the track. But our hero's mind is already miles away, remembering how he lost absolutely everything in his past life, knowing that if he sits around doing nothing, that same hopeless apocalypse will repeat itself, leaving him determined to quickly formulate a plan and rank up as fast as humanly possible, since the only way to gain power in this era is by hunting monsters near active dungeons. Unfortunately, the major guilds monopolize almost every single active dungeon in the city, leaving independent hunters completely locked out of the government's official ranking system, where most academy students remain hopelessly stuck at the bottom tier E rank forever, making our boy wonder how his balanced level 1 stats would actually grade. Though he knows he is already doing way better than his roommate, until a stray basketball suddenly flies out of nowhere and thwacks Ma Long, sending the poor kid face-planting hard onto the concrete with shattered glasses, revealing a smug gang of campus bullies lounging nearby on the steps, led by the same muscular tank-top jerk who beat them up yesterday, leaving Ma Long trembling in absolute terror as their worst nightmare returns. Standing his ground, Chen stares down the group of smug bullies lounging on the steps, while their muscular leader flashes a cocky grin, mocking how well the duo takes a beating, demanding they immediately go fetch him 2 cases of drinks just for existing on his court, which instantly sends a terrified Ma Long bowing and stammering out a frantic apology. But our boy steps right in, calmly telling his roommate that they aren't the ones who should apologize, prompting the tank-top jerk to laugh at this sudden, unexpected burst of confidence, completely unaware that those mocking words are unlocking some of Shichen's darkest memories, flashing back to a brutal moment when his head was violently shoved underwater, as this exact same bully drowned him in a sink while his goons laughed hysterically, leaving a helpless Ma Long crying on the floor, completely powerless to stop the abuse. This muscular bully leader smirks as he holds our boy's head underwater, claiming he is just giving the unawakened kid a helpful little nudge, while his brainless goons stand in the background laughing hysterically at the torture, leaving Shichen unconscious on the floor as the bored gang finally walks away, until Ma Long rushes over to shake his limp body, crying out in panic. Dripping wet and utterly humiliated, our boy could only wonder why they wouldn't leave them alone, realizing that pure unadulterated evil doesn't just belong to the demon realm, as the bully's smug face flashes in his mind, eager to keep tormenting them, snapping back to the present where the jerk is still demanding his free drinks, which instantly has a terrified Ma Long bowing and offering to buy them right away. Standing tall, Chen firmly tells his trembling roommate that they have absolutely nothing to apologize for, which immediately wipes the smug grin right off the muscular bully leader's face, leaving Ma Long sweating bullets as he frantically tries to pull our boy back from danger. But the jerk steps forward, revealing his name is Gong Cheng, a low-tier E-rank flower warrior, whose only real claim to fame is having a powerful student council president for an older brother, prompting the gathered crowd of onlookers to eagerly gossip about the impending beatdown, laughing at how the Academy's 2 most useless students are about to get hospitalized again. Looming over our hero, the arrogant bully lets his toxic green energy flare up menacingly, cracking his knuckles while demanding to know if the weakling has a sudden death wish, only to be met with a cold red-eyed glare telling him to back off permanently. Infuriated by the defiance, Gong Cheng winds up a massive punch to teach our boy another lesson, but Chen casually raises his arm, blocking the heavy blow with absolute ease, leaving the bully clutching his bruised hand in agonizing pain while stumbling backward, which completely stuns the gathered crowd of students who cannot believe what they just witnessed. Gritting his teeth, the humiliated bully demands to know how an unawakened weakling blocked him, prompting our boy to smirk, deciding this is the perfect moment to execute his class change, which instantly triggers the system to officially register him as a level 1 lightning assassin, leaving a sweating Ma Long screaming in absolute shock at his friend's sudden awakening, while crackling yellow electricity dances across Chen's body as he prepares to fight, forcing a desperate Gong Cheng to activate his immortal demon armor skill for a final strike. Ducking under the heavy blow, Chen unleashes a lightning-fast counterpunch straight to the face, sending the massive bully flying backward through the air before crashing hard onto the pavement, which completely breaks the brains of the gathered crowd, leaving Ma Long utterly speechless, while Gong Cheng grovels in the dirt, desperately trying to comprehend how he got blindsided. Nursing his bruised ego, the fallen bully screams at his goons to stop standing around, but his lackey can only stammer in absolute terror, completely frozen by what he sees, as our boy stands enveloped in a terrifying, crackling aura of pure golden electricity, prompting a humiliated Gong Cheng to leap back up, throwing a desperate rage-fueled punch, only for Chen to catch the massive armored fist barehanded with absolute ease, crushing the bully's hand with a sickening crack while coldly reminding him how weak he is. With a single explosive motion, Chen unleashes his lightning-infused power directly into Gong Cheng, sending the massive bully flying backward through the air as electrical sparks crackle around him, before he crashes violently into the concrete bleachers, kicking up a massive cloud of dust, leaving him slumped against the cracked wall, coughing up blood and completely defeated. Seeing their leader utterly broken, the remaining bullies instantly turn tail and run for their lives, while Ma Long stands frozen on the grass, his jaw dropping in absolute disbelief, staring at his roommate as if he is looking at a completely different person, Meanwhile, Chen calmly pulls up his status window to review his balanced level 1 stats, realizing he can seamlessly tap into his past life lightning assassin class whenever he wants, which easily explains why he can effortlessly overpower low-tier E-rank hunters without breaking a sweat. Looking at the defeated bully, our boy realizes there is still one major problem. Despite knocking Gongcheng out cold, his level 1 system stats haven't budged a single point, prompting him to wonder if he needs to push things a little further, which instantly panics Ma Long as he screams at our hero to stop. But Chen ignores him, pinning the terrified bully by the throat with crackling electricity, wondering if harvesting experience points in this timeline works the same brutal way. Preparing to test his theory by delivering another devastating blow to the helpless jerk, until a smooth, mocking female voice suddenly interrupts his train of thought from behind, revealing the school's gorgeous student council vice president, Ling Yu, stepping in to mediate, who casually assures our boy that the bully has definitely learned his lesson. Releasing his grip on the beaten bully, Chen lets Gongcheng slump onto the concrete, wondering why the student council is so eager to jump to this jerk's defense, though he knows a little intimidation is necessary to keep these pests away for good, while the surrounding students whisper in absolute shock, terrified of his sudden, monstrous strength. Turning on his heel, our boy casually walks away while a frantic Ma Long scrambles to catch up, leaving Ling Yu to watch them go with a highly intrigued, knowing smirk on her face. Later that evening, the scene shifts over to the quiet exterior of the men's dormitory, where Ma Long is currently losing his absolute mind trying to explain the crazy fight, aggressively shadowboxing in their dorm room, while their skeptical roommates listen with pure amusement, prompting their cynical roommate, an E-rank flame mage named Xiang Zuo, to ask where our hero actually is. Sweat dripping down his face, Ma Long nervously squeaks that Chen just went out for a run, which immediately earns him a sharp jab to the skull from their highly skeptical roommate, while their other roommate, Xiang Yu, quietly types away, convinced Ma Long has finally lost his mind. Gesturing wildly, the loudmouth roommate reminds everyone that they share a room because they have the worst grades, proudly summoning a tiny spark to boast about being the only combat class flame mage in their dorm, completely dismissing the idea of Chen's awakening while flexing his arm with absolute unearned confidence, declaring that tomorrow's final rank evaluation will expose our hero's lies once and for all. Meanwhile, a massive swirling vortex of fire crackles inside the Academy's exclusive E-rank training den, where a blood-splattered student council president named Gong Ting steps out of the flames, casually ending his training session while the guards bow in deep respect to his terrifying power. Standing in the shadows with bandages wrapped around his face, Gongcheng waits for his older brother, begging the student council president to avenge him because the humiliation is keeping him awake, prompting the powerful older brother to calmly listen to the pathetic whining of his sibling, before coldly promising that he will personally take care of this sudden upstart. While over at a lavish dining table, a sharp knife slowly slices through a thick, juicy steak, as the student council vice president Ling Yu asks how he plans to handle the situation, wondering if this mysterious new lightning user is actually as strong as his brother claims, reminding him that he has already recruited every single D-rank student in the academy, since ordinary students lack the exclusive dungeon access required to ever grow any stronger. While outside in the pouring rain, our boy runs through the storm to build up his strength. Running through the pouring rain, Chen carries a brutal 100-kilogram load for 20 kilometers, knowing that a solid physical foundation is the only way to withstand his class's true power, though he secretly knows this grueling workout is still nowhere near enough to survive what is coming. Flashing back to the year 2160 when the terrifying demon King Wrath slaughtered humanity, recalling the agonizing moment his little sister died in his arms during that apocalyptic invasion, as the monstrous demon threw open the gates of hell to let other beasts invade Earth. Gritting his teeth through the storm, our boy focuses on his ultimate non-negotiable first objective, to personally hunt down and slay the demon King Wrath before history repeats itself, realizing he has exactly 3 years to outpace the monster's growth before the descent begins, until a sudden electronic buzz from his pocket abruptly cuts through his deep thoughts. Looking down at his buzzing phone, our boy freezes as the screen displays Si-yoon's name. Trembling in the pouring rain, he slowly pops in an earbud to answer the unexpected call. Her energetic voice instantly blares through the line, demanding to know why he called so much. She excitedly rambles about winning a competition to finally pay off their overdue rent. Hearing her voice, he stands completely silent in the storm as she asks about the rain. Squeezing his eyes shut, he manages to whisper that everything is completely fine, tears of pure relief mixing with the rain as he confesses how much he missed her, leaving his sister utterly confused since they literally just spoke 2 days ago. Hanging up, a wave of absolute determination washes over him as his second chance becomes real, prompting him to sprint back onto the track to push his body past its absolute limits. Driven by the burning desire to protect everything he holds dear in this second life, our boy sneaks back into his quiet dorm room 8 hours after his regression, washing away the sweat under a hot shower while appreciating his younger, highly adaptable body, before drying off to focus on the most critical obstacle standing in his way. Realizing that leveling up requires entering a demon den, which the elite guilds completely monopolize, leaving ordinary students with absolutely zero chance of finding monsters to grow stronger, prompting him to close his eyes and ponder the mysterious power of gluttony he possesses, until a sudden Crimson System notification begins initializing in the darkness of his mind, completing its load to officially initiate the legendary Glutton system with a blinding flash, pulling our boy's consciousness deep into a strange, endless void as the real trial begins. Falling through a dark, crimson-tinted void, our boy plunges downward before splashing onto a solid surface, only to look up and find a massive, jagged tower looming over a blood-red sea, leaving Cheon completely bewildered as he stands in his sleepwear, wondering how he got here, staring up at the terrifying bone-like structure that seems to stretch endlessly into the dark sky. Suddenly, low growls echo through the mist as several skeletal, wolf-like E-rank gravehounds emerge, prompting a system notification to flash as yellow lightning crackles around his hand, confirming a class change, which officially registers him as a level 1 lightning assassin, complete with his past life stats and skills, leaving him no time to think as the pack of snarling beasts suddenly lunges forward. But with a blinding flash of speed, Cheon dashes forward and cleanly slices a beast in half, instantly killing the monster and earning himself 3 Gravehound fangs as his very first loot drops. Slicing through the remaining E-rank Gravehounds with absolute ease, our boy collects his loot, watching the experience points roll in as he realizes this hyper-realistic space is no dream, which is instantly confirmed when a massive golden level-up notification flashes before his eyes, showing a solid 5-point increase across all of his core level 2 stats, leaving him absolutely thrilled to have found a private dungeon to grind in peace. But the celebration is cut short when an E-rank Gravehound King boss suddenly spawns, only for Cheon to instantly shred the massive beast with a flurry of lightning strikes, securing a massive chunk of experience along with a rare Gravehound crystal loot drop, which pushes him straight to level 3 while boosting his stats even further, until a strange crimson prompt suddenly appears, urging him to devour the fallen boss. Staring in absolute shock, Cheon's eyes widen as a bizarre system prompt pops up, hovering directly over the dead boss monster and demanding that he devour the fallen beast, before his hand suddenly begins to glow with a strange, intense crimson light, making him realize this is the true, terrifying nature of his unique gluttony ability, as a massive dark vortex violently swirls to absorb the monster's residual energy, clenching his fist as the wild energy finally settles back into his body. A holographic card suddenly materializes to confirm the devouring process is officially complete, revealing that he can literally steal his slain enemy's powers and turn them into classes, which triggers a sudden mind-blowing realization about how broken this system actually is, looking down at his glowing hand as the sheer scale of his new potential sinks in. Looking at the residual energy, he realizes this terrifying power belonged to none other than Lan Yue, this legendary demon king who once brought humanity to the absolute brink of total extinction, meaning the ultimate cheat code of the apocalypse is now officially his to command. While normal awakened humans are strictly locked into a single combat class for life, our boy is currently dual-wielding both the Lightning Assassin and the rare Cloud Warrior classes, realizing that devouring more high-level monsters could grant him an infinite arsenal of overpowered abilities, which makes him wonder about the true origins of this ridiculously broken system, questioning why he of all people was chosen to inherit such a terrifying power, while staring up at the mysterious, towering bone structure looming in the crimson void, until a sudden violent tremor shakes the ground and completely shatters his train of thought. Sweating profusely, our boy suddenly buckles under a suffocating wave of pure unadulterated pressure, as a towering hooded entity emerges from the rumbling bone structure to greet him, chillingly calling out Cheon's actual name despite the system's glitched-out identification screen. Before he can even process the shock, a massive shockwave blasts him backward, sending him skidding across the crimson ground as he barely manages to break his fall, realizing his current D-rank strength is absolutely nothing compared to his peak past life power, especially since the dual blade-wielding monster standing before him is a literal S-rank boss. Gripping his lightning daggers, our boy wonders how an endgame threat even exists in the starter zone, dodging a flurry of lethal slashes while realizing the boss is bizarrely holding back, until a brutal purple energy strike sends him flying through the air in agony. Coughing up blood, Cheon realizes the boss is deliberately avoiding his vital spots during this beatdown. This towering, hooded boss stares down at him with glowing eyes, mockingly asking if he is still struggling. Wiping his bloodied mouth, our boy realizes this monstrous entity is trying to force him into submission. This boss offers him a choice to stay and guard the Tower of Darkness by his side, but Cheon immediately rejects the offer, refusing to spend eternity trapped inside this crimson hellhole. A sudden blinding purple/tears right through our boy's chest, sending blood spraying everywhere. Shock washes over him as he stares at his own blood painting the crimson sky. This boss coldly warns that patience has limits, revealing Cheon is simply the first to ever reach this place, Meanwhile, strange purple energy begins rising from the skulls of the defeated monsters scattered across the ground, while the boss unleashes a massive wave of power, demanding his submission one final time. Floating high above, the S-rank boss demands Si-Chen stay or be crushed into absolute oblivion, but our boy simply glares back as yellow lightning crackles wildly around his face, choosing to charge straight ahead with a roar determined to take the monster down, prompting the boss to laugh mockingly while unleashing a massive barrage of dark rocks, which Si-Chen narrowly dodges by weaving through the debris with his lightning-fast speed, realizing after their last exchange that he has officially figured out the monster's attack pattern. Noticing a tiny 0.4-second windup right before the boss swings his massive weapon, which gives him a golden window to read the exact angle of the monster's wrist, allowing him to predict the trajectory and cleanly dodge a lethal purple energy slash while preparing to exploit the boss's tiny 0.2-second recovery window to strike back. Planning his next move, Si-Chen eyes the boss's brief moment of complete vulnerability, unleashing his Electroblade skill to strike directly at the monster's exposed chest, hoping the lightning's paralysis effect will buy him a few precious seconds to escape, activating his Godspeed skill to instantly boost his movement speed tenfold as he runs, sprinting across the barren ground while praying this brief window is enough to get away. Aiming straight for a distant white light that seems to be the only exit around, reaching out his hand to touch the glowing portal as he finally draws close, only for the light to suddenly vanish into thin air, leaving him completely stranded. As the boss reappears behind him, mockingly revealing the exit was just a cruel illusion, crackling with dark purple energy, while expressing genuine amusement at our boy's clever tactics. Staring in disbelief, our boy listens as the boss praises his calm, tactical mind under pressure, only for the monster to reveal its true identity as the legendary S-rank Abyssal Fiend, triggering a sudden wave of sheer terror as Si-Chen recognizes that exact monstrous form. Remembering his final apocalyptic battle against the catastrophic demon King Lan Yue in his past life, a terrifying entity who possessed the exact same broken ability to steal and switch classes, shifting effortlessly into a colossal ice dragon to rain absolute devastation down upon the world, before instantly morphing into a blazing fire demon to incinerate everything in his path, followed by a toxic plant-like beast form that corrupted the very ground he walked on, and finally a blinding golden lightning deity that wielded the raw power of the heavens, leaving Si-Chen to realize the terrifying truth about the boss standing right before him. Recognizing the terrifying armored silhouette of the legendary demon King Lan Yue, our boy realizes this monstrous entity once possessed the exact same gluttony ability, meaning Lan Yue must have devoured the Abyssal Fiend in his past life, leading to the mind-blowing realization that this entire dark dimension exists inside his own body, as the towering boss smiles, praising Si-Chen's sharp mind and declaring him worthy, leaving our boy completely stunned by the sudden shift from a brutal beatdown to high praise, until the boss summons a glowing SSS rank time rift key right before his eyes, explaining that the most powerful demons devoured by Lan Yue are sealed inside the tower, urging Si-Chen to conquer the tower, devour those ancient monsters, and claim their strength, leaving our boy holding the legendary key while questioning why this terrifying boss is helping him. Explaining that even demons have standards, the boss reveals other demon kings slaughtered his entire clan, having waited ages for revenge while calling our boy the only hope to succeed, which leaves Si-Chen completely baffled as he demands to know who that guy is. But the monster simply points toward the towering structure, claiming all answers lie inside, suddenly dissolving into pure, swirling energy while urging our boy to inherit his S-rank powers, leaving Si-Chen utterly stunned by the sudden offer of a free massive upgrade, as the boss's face burns away, commanding him to open the gates and devour everything, warning that the ancient monsters sealed inside the tower will show absolutely zero mercy, prompting our boy to steel his resolve as the spirit urges him to conquer them all, until he finally devours every single demon king to stand at the absolute pinnacle of the world. As the Abyssal Fiend's physical form completely dissolves into a brilliant cascade of starlight, his final words echo through the void, declaring Si-Chen worthy of inheriting his legendary power, triggering the gluttony system to instantly begin devouring the massive swirling vortex of purple energy, which triggers a massive level-up notification as our boy officially reaches level 10, staring ahead with absolute determination as he vows to carry on the fallen warrior's legacy, while a holographic card materializes to confirm he has successfully acquired the Abyssal Fiend class. Suddenly, a loud, obnoxious voice echoing through the darkness completely shatters his focus, causing our boy to snap his eyes open as he sits up in a bunk bed, realizing he is somehow back in his academy dorm room while his roommates scramble to get dressed, looking down at his chest to find his lethal wounds completely healed, leaving him utterly bewildered. Staring at his glowing system screen, Si-Chen realizes all his hard-earned loot is actually real, marveling at his incredible level 10 stats while wondering how he ranks among other hunters, until his smug roommate Ma Long suddenly barges over to his bunk bed with a grin, teasing our boy about some rumors while warning him not to steal his top dog status, leaning in close with a wild look to announce that the rank assessments are finally starting, which only makes Si-Chen stare back calmly, completely unfazed by the sudden challenge, munching loudly on a piece of bread as they head out of the dorms. Ma Long begins bragging to the group about being a superior mid-tier E-rank hunter, explaining the massive power gap between tiers while claiming he could easily take them all on, while Chen silently walks behind him, letting the loudmouth hype himself up for the upcoming test. Walking beside him, Ma Long's nerdy friend eagerly urges Chen to aim for a D rank, which only makes our boy smirk internally at how hilariously low their expectations actually are, as they finally arrive at the bustling academy courtyard filled with students whispering in groups, looking up to see a massive digital screen announcing the official ranking assessment ceremony. Suddenly, a group of rowdy students comes shoving their way out of the nearby restroom, revealing themselves as the notorious arrogant lackeys who serve the elite bully Gong Cheng. This nerdy roommate instantly panics, warning the group to steer clear of these dangerous troublemakers. But Chen simply turns his head, locking eyes with the bullies with absolute indifference, causing the thugs' hearts to skip a beat as sheer, paralyzing terror instantly grips them, prompting the terrified lackeys to immediately bow down in deep respect to our boy. Staring in absolute shock, Ma Long wonders why those terrifying thugs were bowing to our boy, while Chen calmly walks away, leaving the trembling bullies frozen in their deep bow, only for a loud, obnoxious voice to suddenly cut through the courtyard's tense silence, revealing a smug student council officer named Cheon who is looking for trouble, mockingly reminding everyone that the guy Chen beat up is the president's younger brother. Panicking from afar, the other students instantly recognize this dangerous new challenger, whispering that Cheon is a powerful D-rank hunter who acts as the president's lapdog, as the smug officer leans in close, claiming he can smell a true powerhouse, only to insult Chen by saying he smells like a complete loser outcast, prompting our boy to calmly look down, dryly asking if he is a dog. Cheong flies into a complete rage, screaming in fury at our boy's casual insult. But a cold, commanding voice suddenly cuts in, ordering the angry officer to stand down, revealing the handsome student council president, Gong Ting, who calmly steps into the light, declaring that his younger brother Gong Chung was entirely at fault for the previous fight, staring down at the scene with an unreadable expression that hides his true thoughts, while Chen merely glares back with his piercing red eyes, completely unfazed by his presence. Suddenly, an announcer's voice echoes across the courtyard, declaring that the ranking assessments are starting, prompting Gong Ting to walk away while dismissing our boy as a complete non-threat, as a mysterious figure watches the massive crowd gather around the glowing assessment portal. While high above in a lavish office, two influential figures discuss who might catch their eye today. Up in her office, a mysterious blonde woman sips her tea with an intrigued smile, while down in the courtyard, the announcer calls up the next student, Shang Zuo, who steps forward with a nervous grin, determined to prove his actual strength, walking straight through the glowing blue portal to begin his official test, entering a specially designed isolated monster dungeon where the individual assessments take place, where a pulsing, mechanical magical core hangs from the ceiling to absorb raw energy, requiring the challenger to unleash their absolute maximum power directly at the device, which causes the core to glow intensely as it processes the massive impact, transmitting the precise energy readings through heavy cables to the external equipment, until the digital screen outside finally flashes to reveal Xiangzuo's official E-rank. While the evaluators record the initial E-rank result, the crowd waits for the real kicker, as Ma Long eagerly hypes up the crowd for the machine's most anticipated feature, a specialized system designed to calculate an awakener's absolute maximum potential in the future, which instantly flags high-potential candidates to receive some highly lucrative government attention, leaving Xiangzuo utterly depressed as his final C-rank potential confirms he won't get any special treatment. His classmates try to comfort him by pointing out their own inevitable failures, with Ma Long cheerfully celebrating the fact that they are all equally mediocre E-rank underachievers. Suddenly, the digital screen flashes a shocking result that sends the entire crowd into absolute hysterics, revealing the very first D-rank promotion of the day as a female student celebrates her massive win, before another smug high achiever struts out of the portal, boasting an incredible A-rank potential, while the average students slump in defeat over the rising number of D-rank promotions. This academy evaluators marvel at this year's unprecedented crop of high-tier talent until the announcer's voice suddenly booms across the courtyard to call up the next candidate, revealing the student council president, Gong Ting, who steps forward with effortless grace, sending a massive wave of excitement through the crowd as they whisper about his elite background, while Chen watches silently from the sidelines, completely unamazed by the president's grand reputation, as the spectators eagerly debate whether Gong Ting will shatter the school's historical records today. Inside the chamber, the mechanical magical core pulses with an eerie, rhythmic heartbeat, waiting for the young master as he approaches the device with absolute confidence, silently resolving to hold back his true power until the final graduation battle examination. Determined to secure his spot at the absolute top of the academy, Gong Ting unleashes his energies as the assessment screen begins processing his power, leaving the head evaluator completely stunned as he recognizes the rare color of the reading, which suddenly flashes to reveal a high-tier D rank with an unbelievable S rank potential, sending the entire crowd of students into absolute hysterics over the mind-blowing result, as the president's loyal fanboy starts screaming his name in pure, unadulterated adoration. While his classmates lose their minds over witnessing school history, Chen remains completely unfazed, prompting the ecstatic evaluators to immediately prepare a direct report for the higher-ups. explaining that an S-rank potential candidate is guaranteed to receive elite government protection, as the smug young master Gong Ting basks in his glory, knowing he made national headlines. High above the courtyard, two influential figures look out the window at the massive crowd, as Headmaster Yuan Long smugly assumes the mysterious blonde woman only came to watch Gong Ting. But she quickly shuts down his assumption, revealing she has a completely different target in mind, looking highly amused as she hints that Gong Ting is not the most interesting student here. While down below, the announcer's voice booms across the courtyard to call up the next candidate, prompting Cheon to step forward with absolute calm as his name echoes through the crowd, only for an arrogant bully to immediately block his path, mockingly calling our boy a total loser, laughing hysterically while warning that their entire dorm will become the laughingstock of the school, pointing out that a group of low-tier E-rank underachievers will only humiliate themselves in the exams, which prompts Ma Long's nerdy friend to angrily shout back, declaring Cheon will make them eat their words. As our boy's name flashes on the massive digital display above the portal, this surrounding crowd mutters in disbelief, wondering if he can actually pull off a decent score, while Cheon walks down the dark, cable-strewn corridor toward the glowing mechanical core, which blinks open like a giant, pulsing mechanical eye to analyze his incoming presence. Looking ahead with glowing red eyes, he prepares to unleash his newly acquired power, knowing that securing a high-ranking guild invitation is the only real path to a stable future, and the ultimate stage to prove his worth is the upcoming graduation combat examination, where students must form 10-member teams of their own choosing to survive the trials, because the winning squad gets directly recruited into the nation's most prestigious Imperial Guild. Turns out these ranking assessments are actually serving a far more critical purpose than simple evaluation. A loud-mouthed student excitedly introduces a newly minted D-rank recruit to his elite squad, boasting that their 10-man team is officially stacked with the Academy's absolute best fighters, leaving the smug president surrounded by cheering sycophants who already crown him the MVP, while the rejected, low-tier students are left to rot in their own misery. Meanwhile, our boy's nerdy classmate anxiously adjusts his glasses, sweating over the agonizing delay, as the massive digital display remains completely blank under Cheon's name, prompting the arrogant crowd to laugh him off as a total, unregistered zero. Even the president's loudmouth lackey dismisses the remaining testers as complete trash, suggesting karaoke instead, which Gong Ting calmly accepts, turning his back on the portal with absolute indifference, until the screen suddenly glitches, flashing a shocking high-tier D rank that freezes everyone in their tracks. This surrounding crowd stands frozen in absolute disbelief, their jaws dropping at the sudden development, while Ma Long immediately loses his mind with excitement, rubbing the victory directly in everyone's faces, leaving the smug student council president completely stunned as his arrogant lackeys choke on their words. Meanwhile, the overloaded magical core inside the chamber suddenly glitches, demanding a complete retest due to an abnormality, but Cheon calmly analyzes his base level, realizing his untransformed state naturally matches a high-tier D rank. Deciding to test his limits, he initiates a class change as blue energy surges through his hand, transforming into the fearsome Gravehound King before choosing to test out his absolute weakest class next, which instantly causes the external digital display to flicker wildly, rewriting his previous score in real time, flashing a brand new mid-tier C rank that completely shatters the entire Academy's expectations. This unexpected upgrade sends the spectators into absolute hysterics as they scream in pure unadulterated shock. This sudden C-rank result leaves the president's lackeys screaming in complete denial, while the Academy's veteran evaluators sweat profusely over what they assume is a system error, as the overloaded magical core inside the chamber frantically demands a complete retest. Realizing his weakest class caused this chaos, Cheon decides to step things up, initiating a class change to his terrifying abyssal fiend form to test his true limits, which immediately sends the mechanical core's single eye into a state of absolute panic, triggering a massive swirling vortex of dark energy that rumbles violently through the sky. This sudden atmospheric pressure leaves the arrogant student council members trembling in sheer terror, while Ma Long and his roommates watch in awe, realizing their dorm has produced an absolute monster, as the external digital display glitches violently, struggling to process his true godlike potential. This digital screen glitches wildly as a massive yellow letter S begins to materialize, leaving the veteran evaluators completely bug-eyed as they scream about another potential S rank, which instantly wipes the smug, self-satisfied smirk right off of Gong Ting's face. Suddenly, a bright red warning flashes across the screen as the system begins to struggle, screaming that a critical system error has occurred while the display flickers out of control, because our boy's raw power has officially exceeded the machine's maximum calculation limits. This mind-blowing revelation leaves the spectators screaming in absolute, jaw-dropping terror, right before the overloaded testing chamber violently explodes in a massive shower of sparks, prompting the panicked evaluators to sprint toward the smoke to rescue the student inside, only to find Cheon standing perfectly fine amidst the wreckage of their expensive machine. This lead evaluator stares in absolute shock as he inspects the smoking testing chamber, realizing with horror that the Academy's highly expensive magical core is completely dead, leaving the panicked staff to assume the machine simply overheated from a long day of testing, while Cheon walks away, secretly pleased that his overwhelming power ruptured the core, because his power of gluttony successfully devoured the A-rank device's unique sensory abilities. allowing him to calmly exit the ruined portal while the crowd continues to murmur in confusion, as he immediately activates his newly acquired delicate magical core skill to scan the area, instantly projecting the hidden ranks of every single student standing in the courtyard, which prompts him to narrow his glowing eyes as he focuses on his main rival. Discovering that the smug student council president Gong Ting is actually hiding a mid-tier C rank, holding the shattered remains of the magical core, the panicked evaluators officially suspend today's testing, dismissing this remaining students while announcing that Chen's corrupted data will be reported to superiors, which only makes Ma Long and his roommates celebrate our boy as an absolute genius. But the student council lackey immediately steps in, mockingly claiming the machine simply glitched, aggressively blaming Chen for ruining the schedule and demanding compensation for wasting their time, prompting our boy to silently charge up his dark energy, seriously considering deleting this loudmouth, until Gong Ting suddenly intervenes, telling his lackey to show some respect to their teammate, leaving the arrogant bully completely dumbfounded by the sudden, unexpected defense of a supposed loser, as the smug president extends a hand, inviting Chen to join his elite graduation team, leaving our boy staring coldly at the offered hand, weighing his options with absolute calm. This surrounding crowd watches in absolute shock as Gong Ting extends his hand to Chen, leaving the arrogant student council lackey sweating bullets over the thought of losing his spot, since getting on this elite team is a guaranteed ticket to the top of the academy. But the young master's personal invitation leaves the bully with no choice but to comply, forcing him to swallow his pride and fake a smile while welcoming our boy to the squad, only for Chen to instantly slap his hand away with a cold rejection, leaving both the arrogant lackey and the student council president completely frozen in shock, as the loudmouth bully screams in disbelief while our boy calmly walks away, warning them with glowing red eyes to never bother him again, leaving the humiliated lackey spitting literal fire while Chen casually strolls back to his dorm. This surrounding crowd of students immediately erupts into absolute chaos over the shocking news, whispering that our boy must be aiming for the academy's absolute top spot, while Ma Long and his roommates laugh hysterically at the student council's public humiliation. Watching Chen walk away, the smug president remains surprisingly calm about the rejection, prompting Headmaster Yuan Long to sigh in disappointment over the missed Dream Team opportunity. But the mysterious blonde woman simply smiles, finding the sudden drama incredibly entertaining, noting that publicly rejecting the wealthy young master is basically a direct declaration of war. Meanwhile, the president's loyal followers nervously remind themselves that their leader is no pushover, as the humiliated lackey continues to rage, insisting the C-rank result was just a system error. But Gong Ting narrows his eyes, silently swearing to crush anyone who threatens his top spot. Desperate to salvage his pride, the humiliated lackey suggests jumping Chen to teach him a lesson, but Gong Ting immediately shoots him down, asking if he looks like a petty loser, before walking away in a sour mood, leaving his squad to go party without him, while warning his lackey that whatever stupid stunt he pulls has absolutely nothing to do with him. This warning goes completely over the lackey's head as he watches his boss walk away, a sinister, unhinged grin spreading across his face as he takes that warning as a green light. And about 10 minutes later, he meets up with a shady informant on the school stairwell, who eagerly reports that Chen has already left the campus to head back home, prompting the ecstatic bully to crush a soda can under his foot in pure excitement, realizing that an off-campus target is the perfect opportunity to strike without any witnesses. Walking down the street with his earbuds in, Chen reflects on his ultimate goal, recalling how a catastrophic event completely reshaped the world during his previous life, when a top-tier guild raided an uncharted dungeon only to trigger an absolute nightmare, unleashing a terrifying, godlike entity known only as Wrath upon the unsuspecting world, which effortlessly wiped out the entire raid team before descending to terrorize humanity. To prevent this apocalypse, our boy devises a plan to locate the dungeon first, realizing his ambitious strategy requires an absolute mountain of cold, hard cash, prompting him to visit the Mithril Monster Exchange, a future powerhouse of resource trading, where hunters buy elite gear and sell valuable monster parts for quick, massive profits, before casually tossing a handful of sharp monster fangs onto the counter to cash in. This snobbish clerk stares in absolute disbelief at the glowing monster fang in his hand, demanding to know how a mere student managed to acquire such rare materials, until the pink-haired junior clerk recognizes them as E-rank gravehound fangs, explaining their various crafting uses while the senior clerk dismissively tosses them aside, scoffing that his high-end VIP counter only handles premium D-rank goods or higher. He silently laments his lack of high-end clients, worrying about his next promotion, deciding that dealing with low-tier students bringing in junk is a waste of his time before dumping the transaction onto his junior colleague and walking away in a huff. This polite pink-haired clerk hands over a sleek black envelope containing the cash, leaving Chen pleased with the $18,000, which easily covers his rent. Just as the transaction wraps up, Chen summons a surge of dark energy from his palm, pulling out a massive, jagged greatsword that glows with an eerie purple aura, which instantly leaves the polite pink-haired clerk completely frozen in absolute awe, guessing that this terrifying weapon must be at least a high-tier B rank or even A rank, though the snobbish senior clerk immediately scoffs, claiming a real A rank would cost millions. Suddenly, a sharp-dressed man with blue hair approaches, agreeing that the blade is neither A nor B rank, prompting the arrogant clerk to laugh in agreement, thinking his boss is calling it garbage, only for the manager to adjust his glasses and declare it a legendary S-rank artifact, sending the smug employee into a screaming fit of pure jaw-dropping panic, while the manager eagerly extends a hand to seal a massive deal with our boy. This blue-haired manager eagerly shakes hands with our boy, completely ignoring his stunned senior clerk, leading him straight to the luxurious VIP lounge while Miss Lee carefully carries the massive greatsword, which brings a knowing, highly satisfied smirk to Si-chen's face as his plan succeeds, because he instantly recognizes this blue-haired manager as Ching-ji, the legendary Mithril guild leader. Once they settle in, a fresh cup of steaming hot tea is poured, setting a calm mood before Ching-ji asks how much our boy wants for the weapon, prompting Si-chen to casually demand a flat price of just $1 million. This surprisingly low price tag leaves the seasoned guild leader completely frozen in absolute disbelief, pointing out that a legendary S-rank artifact could easily fetch tens of millions on the market. But our boy calmly explains he only wants a temporary loan with the blade as collateral. This bizarre proposal leaves the seasoned guild leader completely dumbfounded, questioning if a normal student would ever think of this, realizing that our boy has absolutely no intention of parting with his legendary weapon permanently, as Si-chen calmly sips his tea while offering to pay a hefty 10% interest, prompting Ching-ji to politely dismiss the junior clerk so they can speak in absolute privacy. Once the door shuts, the room falls silent as the guild leader begins to connect the dots, pointing out that our boy attends the prestigious National Awakener University where graduation is rapidly approaching, which features an annual exam in exactly 1 month, boasting a grand prize of $1 million, a sum that perfectly matches the exact repayment amount and timeline of their proposed deal. He stares intently at Si-chen, asking if he is truly that confident in taking first place, deducing that our boy must be in desperate need of immediate cash to take such a massive risk. Seeing through our boy's high-stakes gamble, the guild leader smiles with absolute amusement, offering to loan him a whopping $1.5 million on the spot, completely waiving any interest for the month to build a solid long-term friendship, leaving Si-chen momentarily surprised by this incredibly generous counter-proposal, as Ching-ji promises to keep their entire transaction strictly confidential, which deeply impresses our boy, who realizes why this man becomes a global powerhouse, knowing that defeating the apocalyptic threat of wrath requires more than just raw individual power, making a trustworthy, highly influential ally like Ching-ji the perfect partner, as they seal their pact by placing a hand over a glowing magic contract, instantly transferring the massive funds directly to Si-chen's account to finalize the deal. With the deal finalized, Ching-ji curiously asks what weapon our boy plans to use for his exam, offering to lend him some high-quality A-rank or B-rank gear from their extensive vault. But Si-chen simply raises his hand, summoning a bright flash of purple energy, pulling out yet another identical S-rank greatsword as if it were absolute pocket change, leaving the guild leader, the junior clerk, and the snobbish employee completely frozen in sheer terror, as they politely bow and bid farewell to the most absurdly overpowered student they have ever met. Thrilled with the massive transaction, Ching-ji immediately promotes the polite pink-haired clerk to supervisor, while Si-chen walks out of the building, suddenly remembering a crucial detail, realizing he still needs to purchase a few essential items before heading home, before casually stepping into a yellow taxicab to head toward his next destination. Arriving at the bustling Kangcheon County long-distance bus terminal, Si-chen stands outside the glass doors, reflecting on how his family struggled through absolute financial ruin during his previous life, recalling the days he worked exhausting delivery jobs just to scrape together rent money, leaving them with barely $100 to survive after paying their monthly bills, which eventually led to his sister receiving an acceptance letter from a prestigious art institute, only for her to tear it up to avoid placing a financial burden on him. But this time, our boy is determined to rewrite their tragic history completely, suddenly snapping out of his deep thoughts when a familiar voice calls out, playfully scolding him for waiting at the entrance instead of the designated exit, as his adorable little sister Shi-yoon approaches while dragging her bright yellow suitcase. Staring at his sister, Shi-chen is hit with a wave of intense emotion, as Si-yoon walks up with her heavy yellow suitcase, asking for a hand, waving her hand in front of his face when he just stands there frozen, only for our boy to suddenly pull her into a tight, silent hug, leaving the poor girl completely stunned by the sudden display of affection, while he silently rejoices at finally seeing his beloved sister alive and well again. She awkwardly pats his back, completely confused by his unusually emotional behavior, before hilariously poking him in the ribs, complaining that he is literally choking her, teasingly asking if he got rejected by a girl while tossing him her backpack, as they happily walk down the street together, chatting away like old times. Looking at his sister's bright smile, Si-chen makes a silent, ironclad vow, promising himself that he will never let her suffer through poverty or sacrifice her dreams again. Meanwhile, in a dark alleyway, a group of armed thugs gathers to set a deadly trap, as their unhinged leader orders them to hide and ambush our boy the moment he appears, flashing a sinister, cigarette-chomping grin while anticipating the brutal beatdown he is about to deliver. One of the masked lackeys nervously asks if they might go too far with a fellow student, but the arrogant leader scoffs, claiming he just wants to teach the cocky E-rank trash a lesson. Recalling how Si-chen coldly dismissed him earlier and warned him never to bother him again, he commands his thugs to leave him a piece of the action so he can personally destroy our boy, drawing a glowing dagger as he is finally introduced as Cheon, a deadly D-rank cloud assassin. As they stroll down the quiet neighborhood street with his sister's tan backpack in tow, Si-yoon sips her drink and asks if he is stressing over the graduation exam, teasingly pointing out that a simpleton like him does not usually get caught up in emotions, before aggressively quoting his very own cheesy motivational life advice right back at him. She cheerfully skips ahead while loudly singing a cheesy pop song to lift his spirits, leaving our boy smiling warmly at how incredibly perceptive his little sister really is. Though she instantly assumes his reassurance is just a classic case of fragile male pride. She sighs dramatically, concluding that her big brother is simply getting old and building emotional walls, completely unaware of the sinister eyes watching them from the shadows of a nearby alley, where a masked thug quickly whispers to Changdi that their target has a girl with him. This masked thugs celebrate their luck, realizing this dark alley has absolutely zero security cameras. But their smug celebration is cut short when Si-chen catches a familiar scent nearby, instantly recognizing the student council thugs waiting to ambush him from the shadows, prompting our boy to calmly pop a wireless earbud out of its charging case, gently placing the device into his sister's ear to block out the impending noise, telling a surprised Shi-yoon that he wants her to listen to his favorite song, which she happily accepts, hoping the music will help her understand his current mental state, leaving her completely distracted and humming along as she continues walking ahead. With his sister safely distracted, Si-chen turns around with cold glowing blue eyes, ready to face Changdi and his low-tier gang of armed student council thugs. While a dramatic song begins to play through the wireless earbud, Si-yoon closes her eyes, completely lost in the peaceful melody, totally unaware that a gang of armed thugs is charging straight toward her brother, who recalls how he lost his entire family in his previous life back in 2160, fueling his absolute rage as yellow lightning crackles wildly around his body, furious that these low-tier punks would dare to ruin his peaceful family reunion, as he instantly blitzes forward, delivering a devastating kick right to a thug's face, sending the attacker flying backward while Cheon watches in absolute horror. Meanwhile, Si-yoon continues walking ahead, completely oblivious to the brutal beatdown behind her, as Si-chen winds up a lightning-infused fist to finish off the remaining ambushers. One of the masked ambushers screams in absolute terror as our boy closes the distance, unleashing a rapid-fire barrage of lightning-fast strikes that sends the thugs flying in every direction, while his sister happily hums along to her music, completely oblivious to the airborne beatdown, as another desperate thug tries to throw a massive punch to stop him, only for our boy to effortlessly catch the attacker's bandaged arm mid-swing, instantly snapping the bone with a sickening crack that echoes through the alleyway, leaving the helpless punk screaming in pure agony over his shattered limb, before a devastating lightning punch blasts him away, creating a massive shockwave. Watching his entire crew get dismantled in seconds, Cheon completely loses his mind, realizing too late that he just picked a fight with an absolute monster. Delivering a brutal right hook, our boy instantly shatters the jaw of another masked thug, before turning his glowing fist toward the pipe-wielding lackey and blasting him into orbit, leaving only their terrified leader standing with a trembling knife as blood drips from Si-chen's knuckles. Desperately trying to salvage his pride, Cheon screams that he is the strongest assassin around, charging forward with pure unadulterated delusion while screeching insults at the top of his lungs. But our boy simply counters with a lightning-fast strike that instantly disarms the loudmouth, sending the self-proclaimed elite assassin spinning helplessly through the air like a discarded ragdoll, only for Si-chen to blitz right behind him to deliver a devastating mid-air follow-up, smashing his glowing fist directly into the punk's face with the force of a freight train, as the loud-mouthed assassin crashes face-first into the concrete with a few less teeth to worry about. Gravity finally reclaims the beaten gang leader as he hurtles downward in a bloody arc, slamming violently into the concrete pavement with a bone-shattering impact that echoes through the alleyway, while a terrifying silhouette looms over him from the edge of the deep crater. Standing over his broken body, Si-chen casually twirls the punk's own discarded dagger, coldly asking which part of his previous warning the idiot failed to comprehend, leaving Changdi weeping in the dirt with shattered ribs and completely numb legs. Our boy instantly presses the cold steel directly against the trembling leader's throat, forcing the terrified thug to realize that this monster will absolutely end his life, as a suffocating aura of pure, unadulterated malice radiates from the young student, who leans in close to deliver a final, spine-chilling warning he will never forget. Standing in the quiet alleyway, Si-chen delivers a chilling warning to the defeated gang, pressing the sharp blade against Chang Fidi's throat to emphasize his absolute seriousness, staring down with glowing red eyes that promise a swift and permanent disappearance, which forces the weeping, terrified leader to nod desperately in complete submission. With the threat neutralized, our boy casually tosses the dagger aside and walks away, while the melancholic lyrics of the song continue to echo through the quiet street. Listening closely, Si-yoon feels an overwhelming wave of sadness wash over her, tears suddenly welling up in her eyes as the emotional melody hits her deep, realizing just how much hidden pain and loneliness her brother must be carrying inside. Before she suddenly spins around with a tearful shout, demanding to know what is going on. To break her sudden tearful tension, Cheon smoothly pulls out a small red gift box, presenting his sister with a sleek glowing golden pen he bought just for her, leaving Cheon completely starstruck as she recognizes the high-end magic holographic pen, though she immediately panics upon realizing this luxury item costs over 10 grand. Looking at the expensive gift, she tearfully suggests returning it to save their money, completely unaware that her brother is hiding his blood-stained fist right behind his back, while the beaten student council thugs are left groaning in the alleyway behind them. Back home, the young girl eagerly tests out her brand new holographic device, watching in absolute awe as a glowing pink fish floats gracefully through the air, while our boy happily slurps down her homemade noodles, completely satisfied with his purchase. While holding her brand new holographic pen, Siyun suddenly remembers their looming financial troubles, but her jaw completely drops when Si-chen casually reveals he already paid the entire year's rent, rubbing his nose while nervously claiming he started a highly lucrative business with a friend, which she immediately calls out as an incredibly suspicious and poorly constructed lie. Though as she stares deeply into his eyes, her suspicion melts into quiet realization, noting that it has been absolute ages since she last saw him smile so genuinely, prompting her to gently place a comforting hand on her big brother's shoulder, softly pleading with him to never push himself too hard no matter what happens, leaving our boy to offer a warm, reassuring nod to put her mind at ease, while a grim report reveals that Xiangdi was left with over 60% of his body fractured. Standing before a massive glowing aquarium, a wealthy student stares at the swimming fish, completely stunned that Xiangdi was beaten so badly he won't recover for months, while a blonde woman sipping tea on the couch notes he will miss the graduation exam, prompting the arrogant student to coldly dismiss his broken teammate as mere deadweight. But their conversation is suddenly interrupted by the heavy footsteps of an approaching elder, who is revealed to be Gong Xuan, the prestigious university's director of career services, who confirms that Si-chen has officially reached C rank after the latest assessment, leaving the young student glaring in absolute silence as his top spot is threatened, before Gong Xuan warns him to dominate the upcoming exam in front of the alliance's vice chairman, hinting at a dark backup plan should their family's reputation face any real threat. Gong Xuan asks his niece to fill the sudden vacancy left in Gong Ting's team, but the arrogant student scoffs, telling the director that he is overthinking things, questioning if anyone actually believes he showed his true power during the ranking assessment, promising to make his absolute dominance crystal clear on the day of the combat exam, as he stares coldly through the glass while a shark swallows its helpless prey. Later that night at the university dorms, Si-chen washes off the day's grime, having just completed a brutal 100-kilometer weighted run to keep his edge sharp, with his sights now locked on winning the massive graduation exam cash prize, which will allow him to finally pay back his debt to the influential Qing Ji, leaving our boy with less than a month to prepare for the ultimate showdown. Closing his eyes, Si-chen decides he needs to squeeze in a few more level-ups, prompting his mysterious glutton system to instantly initialize and load up its main interface, which transports him directly to the base of a colossal, blood-red tower piercing the sky. Walking up the massive stone steps, our boy prepares to face whatever lies beyond the gate, recalling that his weakest class, the Gravehound King, was officially ranked as a mid-tier C rank, while his strongest class, the Abyssal Fiend, completely broke the system's scale with its unmeasurable potential, leaving the exact power levels of his remaining two classes shrouded in absolute mystery. To unlock this forbidden zone, he summons a glowing SSS-rank Golden Time Rift Key, slotting the artifact between the massive stone doors as they rumble open with blinding light, ready to step into the swirling purple vortex of the legendary Tower of Darkness. Stepping through the portal, Si-chen looks around in utter bewilderment, finding himself stranded on the desolate, snow-white plains of the Fallen Star Wastes. But before he can even take a single step forward, a sudden, crushing force slams him straight down onto his knees. Realizing the gravity in this desolate wasteland is a brutal 10 times normal Earth gravity, leaving him trapped with only 30% of his power until he slays the floor's boss. Right on cue, a massive, glowing purple phantom lion emerges from the cosmic shadows, prompting our boy to quickly initiate a tactical class swap to counter the beast, successfully transforming into his high-speed lightning assassin form to level the playing field, just as the ferocious B-rank Star Warrior lunges down to tear him to shreds. Dodging the beast's initial lunge, Si-chen slides across the snowy ground with his lightning blade drawn, but the crushing 10 times gravity makes his limbs feel like absolute lead as he struggles to move, forcing him to strike early, only for his lightning-fast stab to completely miss the target, leaving our boy staring in absolute shock as his guaranteed paralysis strike fails to connect, and before he can recover, the massive phantom beast slams him hard into the frozen dirt. Realizing his high-speed assassin class is completely useless under this ridiculous gravitational pressure while the beast moves freely, our boy decides to fight fire with fire by initiating another emergency class swap, instantly transforming into his level 10 Purgatory Rakshasa form as dark energy wraps around his body, unlocking massive strength and stamina boosts along with a handy gravity manipulation skill to level the playing field, before throwing a devastating, bone-shattering punch right into the charging monster's face. Channeling his inner gravity controller, our boy stacks the environmental pressure to its absolute limit, watching the gravity multiplier surge from 200 to a staggering 600%, which amplifies the destructive power of his incoming punch by a ridiculous 60 times, leaving the B-rank Phantom Lion roaring in absolute terror as the massive fist approaches. With a deafening crash, Cheon slams the beast straight into the frozen dirt, unleashing his devastating tri-phase gravity calamity skill to completely shatter the surrounding landscape, leaving the young warrior panting heavily as the dust finally begins to settle, while the defeated phantom beast disintegrates into purple mist, leaving behind a rare bone artifact. Pocketing a massive 12,000 experience points, our boy officially levels up to level 11, before taking a moment to analyze how his star multipliers drastically boost his class stats. Staring at his class cards, Cheon realizes none of his current classes have broken the B-rank limit, but his analytical thoughts are suddenly cut short as a strange realization hits him, noticing that the defeated Phantom Beast's remains didn't trigger the system's devourable prompt, while the exit gate to the next floor is still nowhere to be found in this desolate wasteland. A cold sweat breaks out on his face as a terrifying possibility crosses his mind, just as a massive swirling black rift begins to tear open in the sky above him, crackling with unstable cosmic energy that shakes the very foundation of the snowy plains. Peering into the dark void, several pairs of glowing white eyes lock onto their target, forcing our boy to realize that the true floor boss hasn't even shown its face yet, and that the B-rank beast he just barely defeated was nothing more than a common mob. Suddenly, a massive purple phantom beast lunges from the cosmic shadows, catching our boy completely off guard, tearing into his flesh with savage claws as multiple phantom beasts swarm him from all directions, leaving him to realize the grim truth behind the Purgatory Rakshasa's warning about endless pain, as another monstrous phantom lion roars directly into his face, ready to tear him apart. Bloodied and battered, Cheon glares back with sheer determination, knowing he must conquer this trial, before he suddenly gasps and sits upright in his bed, drenched in a cold sweat, panting heavily in the quiet darkness of his dorm room while his roommate sleeps peacefully nearby, clutching his chest as the phantom sensation of tearing muscles and shattering bones feels incredibly real, reminding him that there are absolutely no shortcuts on this brutal, lonely road to ultimate power. This scene then shifts to Friday morning at the National Awakener University's Grand Auditorium, where the Graduation Combat Assessment Team formation ceremony is officially underway. Sitting at the main stage, director Gong Juan casually sips from his metallic thermos, while excited whispers ripple through the crowd about Guild Alliance executives watching live, explaining why the administration suddenly decided to shake up the entire assessment format, forcing every team to have 5 members including at least one high E rank, leaving the students to wonder if this is just for pure entertainment value. Clearing his throat, Gong Xuan prepares to address the massive crowd of anxious students, announcing that the official ranking list has been sent directly to everyone's wristbands, prompting the entire auditorium to immediately activate their holographic displays to check, revealing a detailed list of student ranks starting with Gong Ting at high-tier D rank. But a nearby student suddenly gasps in shock as he spots a massive anomaly. This official ranking list shows Cheon sitting at a shockingly low E rank, leaving his nearby classmates completely dumbfounded by this sudden and massive drop, while other students whisper in confusion, wondering how a C rank could suddenly plummet so far, assuming his core must have been permanently damaged during his previous battles, which actually plays perfectly into our boy's hands as he keeps a completely straight face. This crowd immediately begins mocking him, laughing that nobody would ever want a low-level deadweight on their team, while Gong Ting watches the unfolding drama in absolute silence, his expression unreadable, as director Gong Xuan observes the chaotic auditorium from his elevated seat on the main stage, silently lamenting his nephew's complete lack of strategic foresight and understanding of human nature, before resolving to personally teach the boy a lesson by rigging the competition in his favor. As the announcement echoes through the hall urging students to form their teams quickly, a crowd of desperate students immediately swarms Gong Ting, begging for a spot, offering up everything from healer classes to promising to act as his personal errand dog, forcing his teammates to yell at the noisy crowd to back off since they only have one spot left. Half an hour later, green wristbands glow as successful teams lock in their registrations, leaving the auditorium buzzing with excitement while one group stands completely isolated in the corner, where Ma Long sighs in defeat, realizing absolutely nobody wants to join their squad, leaving them with only 4 members and facing disqualification from the graduation exam, while he grumbles about how bizarre it is that Cheon's rank plummeted to dead last, prompting Cheon to listen quietly as Ma Long suspects the school's rules are targeting their dorm. While the graduation battle exam is everyone's only shot at securing a promising career, having more teammates actually scales up the monster count inside the dungeon, meaning a larger squad doesn't guarantee a higher score if they carry deadweight, which is bad news since the 3 lowest E ranks are all from their dorm. Suddenly, a student from another team calls out to Shangzuo from across the hall, offering him a spot to avoid being dragged down by his trash roommates, warning him that staying with those low-tier E ranks will only get him ignored, which would ultimately lead to their entire group being disqualified from the exam. Looking back at the recruiters, Shangzuo simply offers a quiet apology, refusing to abandon his roommates because of a promise they made to team up. This recruiters scoff and walk away, calling Shangzuo ungrateful for rejecting their offer, while the digital scoreboard continues to chime as teams rapidly lock in their registrations, leaving Ma Long sweating bullets as he points out they are officially out of options, prompting Cheon to narrow his eyes in silent calculation as he pieces together the puzzle, realizing that director Gong Xuan shares the exact same surname as his arrogant rival Gong Ting, which explains why the administration went out of their way to artificially tank his official rank. But instead of backing down, our boy decides to stop playing nice with these corrupt officials, initiating an instant class change as blinding golden lightning crackles violently around his entire body, catching the attention of the nearby evaluators who turn around in absolute shock at the sudden energy spike, while Ma Long screams in pure terror as the massive pressure threatens to blow them away. As the golden lightning crackles, the students whisper about the university's traditional 1v1 challenge rule, which allows anyone to initiate a duel to instantly prove their true combat capabilities. Though the crowd is absolutely certain that the top-ranked Gong Ting would never accept, prompting the arrogant young master to glare back with a cold, calculating expression. While Cheon realizes that defeating him is the fastest way to attract strong teammates, suddenly a clear voice echoes through the hall, asking if their team is still looking for members, drawing everyone's attention as a stunning blonde woman calmly steps into the bright doorway, revealing herself as Ling Yu, a powerful D rank who promises not to hold them back, leaving Ma Long and the surrounding students completely speechless at this legendary connection. While Gong Ting spins around in absolute shock, realizing his own cousin just joined his rival. Watching the sudden development unfold, director Gong Xuan literally spits his tea right back into his thermos, while the sound of clicking high heels echoes through the stunned silence of the massive auditorium, drawing everyone's eyes to Ling Yu as the students whisper about her mysterious genius background, prompting the panicked director Gong Xuan to quickly interject by calling out her name, claiming that as an exchange student without an official rank assessment, she is completely ineligible. But his desperate rule lawyering is suddenly interrupted as the school's powerful principal materializes out of thin air, leaving the corrupt director sweating bullets as he spins around to face his superior, who calmly questions Ling Yu about why she is getting involved in this local mess, prompting Cheon to narrow his eyes in confusion, wondering how a soldier class can teleport, while the principal politely explains that having a powerhouse like her participate would be completely unfair. Staring back in absolute shock, Cheon notices a strange detail about the powerful newcomers, realizing his system interface cannot scan the official rank of either the principal or Ling Yu, prompting the sweating director Gong Xuan to quickly nod along in desperate agreement, loudly preaching to the entire auditorium about the sacred prestige of their academic rules, while the principal stares him down, reminding everyone that this exam is a vital turning point, and that any unfair interference would completely destroy the university's long-standing reputation. A cold sweat breaks out on Gong Xuan's face as he panics internally, wondering if the old man figured out he personally tampered with Cheon's rank, before deciding it is best to back down rather than pick a fight with his superior, comforting himself with the fact that Cheon is still stuck with low-tier teammates. Realizing the rules are too restrictive, director Gong Xuan quickly bows and blames his department's oversight, loudly declaring that incomplete or low-ranked teams are now officially allowed to submit their registrations, prompting our boys' squad to immediately lock in their registration as their wristbands glow green, leaving Ma Long and the other roommates celebrating wildly while crowning Cheon as their captain. Sitting back in the VIP area, the principal notes Ling Yu's surprisingly deep interest in our boy, setting up a massive clash between Gong Ting's elite squad and Cheon's low-ranked team, leaving the principal to wonder which dungeon they will choose and how many points they will score. Standing at the podium, the announcer explains that team captains can now select their target dungeon, but he instantly freezes in shock as a notification chime reveals a team already submitted, prompting the entire auditorium to erupt in whispers as they realize Cheon's team picked first. This surrounding students immediately lose their minds in absolute shock at the team's choice, prompting Ma Long to grab our boy's shoulders while screaming at him to undo it, but Cheon simply stares back with a cold, unbothered expression that says it all, as the system interface outlines the harsh reality of the graduation battle examination, where students must earn their passing grades by hunting down dangerous mobs and monster lords, with their final scores calculated through dungeon completion, boss slaying, and clear times, meaning different dungeon ranks carry massive score multipliers to reward the bravest squads, capping an F rank run at a mediocre maximum score of 75 points. while conquering an E-rank dungeon grants a double multiplier for a perfect 100-point run, which is exactly the kind of high-stakes gamble our boy needs to make a statement. To make things even wilder, the top-scoring team gets direct recruitment offers from the legendary Imperial Guild, while the class MVP walks away with a management position and a cool million yuan. But the students whisper that the highest score ever recorded was set by the guild's current leader, leaving everyone convinced that only Gong Ting's elite squad has any hope of breaking that legendary record, until a sudden notification chime echoes through the hall, showing a team has already submitted their choice, leaving the nearby students absolutely sweating in disbelief as they realize who just locked it in, because instead of playing it safe with an F or E rank dungeon like everyone else, Cheon has boldly selected a high-tier D rank dungeon for his low-rank squad, prompting the surrounding crowd to lose their minds, assuming the kid must have pressed the wrong button. While Ma Long grabs our boy's shoulder in sheer panic, screaming at him for completely losing his mind. Ma Long literally collapses to the floor in tears, completely convinced his captain has a death wish, while his glowing wristband demands confirmation for a suicide mission he desperately wants to decline, prompting Xianzuo to frantically corner Cheon, begging him to reconsider this absolute madness. But our boy simply nods with a cold stare, completely locked into his high-stakes gamble, and with a loud chime, the system officially registers 2 teams for the deadly D-rank dungeon, confirming that Gong Ting's elite squad has also locked in their selection for the exam. This double submission sends the entire auditorium into a frenzy as students scream in disbelief, while Gong Ting calmly checks his wristband, completely unbothered by his low-ranked rivals, prompting his smug teammates to mock Sechen's group for trying to act tough, laughing that the underdogs are just desperately seeking attention before their inevitable embarrassing defeat, while the arrogant onlookers laugh, assuming this mismatched squad will instantly fall apart. Ma Long stares at his captain, trying to comprehend the sheer scale of this madness, realizing that Cheon possesses an incredibly powerful aura that he never noticed before, prompting the bespectacled roommate to silently adjust his glasses as he makes a final decision. And with a determined shout, Ma Long slams his wristband to confirm the D-rank dungeon, declaring that since he is already in last place, the difficulty level makes no difference. Seeing his friend take the plunge, Xingzhou sighs and locks in his confirmation as well, which leaves their final roommate gritting his teeth in absolute disbelief at their sudden bravery, screaming that as the self-proclaimed top dog of their dorm, he cannot be left behind, before raising his glowing wristband to officially lock in his registration for the suicide mission. With a loud chime, the system officially registers Cheon's team for the D-rank dungeon, prompting our boy to turn around and address his newly united roommates, offering a sincere apology for dragging them into such a high-stakes gamble, admitting that he chose the dangerous D-rank dungeon solely to secure the MVP title, but quickly flashing a confident smirk as he rallies them to aim for the top score together, which immediately draws a cold, piercing glare from Gong Ting standing further up the stairs. Sensing the sudden shift in the room's atmosphere, Ma Long nervously glances back, while Gong Ting silently fumes, declaring that only one student can stand at the absolute top, leaving Ling Yu to smile in amusement at this rare, intense expression on her cousin's face, as the long-awaited rivalry between the 2 top contenders finally breaks out into the open. Watching the registrations lock in, the principal smiles warmly at the sheer fearlessness of the younger generation, though Ling Yu points out that Chen's choice of a D-rank dungeon borders on pure delusion, especially since the massive 3-times score multiplier comes with a lethal spike in difficulty, making it an incredibly suicidal path for a team with such low official ranks. But the principal simply smiles, noting they have just over a month left to prepare. Meanwhile, the other elite students are already pushing their elemental abilities to the absolute limit, spending day and night hooked up to the university's advanced combat simulation pods. But with only 17 days left, Chen's roommates are currently dying on a running track. Ma Long collapses in sheer exhaustion, wheezing about why they are doing basic cardio instead of simulator training, prompting our boy to calmly explain that virtual simulations can never replace raw physical conditioning. Standing tall over his exhausted roommates, Chen explains that fear of the unknown will eventually paralyze them, meaning only raw, hardwired survival instincts will keep them alive when facing a real monster, which is exactly why he is forcing them to build explosive physical conditioning right now, pointing out that safe, cozy school simulators can never replicate the brutal reality of actual combat. Unfortunately, regular students like them do not have the luxury of private training dungeons, unlike the wealthy elites who slice through high-tier beasts just to warm up, constantly widening the gap to ensure they stay at the absolute top of the food chain, born into immense privilege with resources that normal hunters can only dream of obtaining, leaving them with legendary gear and power before the race even officially begins. Hearing this harsh reality, the roommates look completely overwhelmed, wondering how nobodies like them can compete. Chen locks eyes with his team, promising to shatter the social barrier by entering the Imperial Guild, leaving Ma Long and the roommates completely stunned by the sheer scale of his ambition, while our boy silently resolves to use this graduation exam as his ultimate stepping stone. With absolute determination burning in his eyes, Chen vows that they will secure a flawless victory. With only 15 days left, our boy dives headfirst into the brutal Starfell Wasteland's dungeon, taking a savage bite to the shoulder from a shadowy beast but refusing to back down. coughing up blood as he gets slammed by another claw with only 10 days remaining. Meanwhile, Ma Long collapses on the track while Si Chen relentlessly pushes them to run more laps, forcing our boy to split his time between grueling real-world cardio and lethal solo dungeon runs, slicing through high-tier monsters with just 5 days left until the fateful exam begins. While his roommates struggle with basic squats, Si Chen pushes his body through weighted push-ups. And with only 3 days left, our boy stands amidst a blazing inferno of pure determination, slicing down high-tier beasts to trigger a massive level-up notification with just 2 days remaining, leaving him bloodied but completely locked in as the final countdown officially hits 0. And a hovering exam drone chirps a greeting to mark the start of graduation day. Tightening his combat gloves, Si Chen prepares to lead his squad into the unknown, while his roommates stand tall behind him, their gear secured and ready for action, prompting the system to unleash a massive surge of energy as the exam begins. Meanwhile, luxury sedans pull up outside the National Awakener University Administration Building, where a powerful figure steps forward to greet Chairman Gong with a firm handshake. This powerful figure is revealed to be Gong Lin, co-founder of the Imperial Guild and Gong Ting's father, prompting the students watching from the windows to absolutely lose their minds over his legendary status. But their jaws drop even lower when they notice the luxury limousine parked right behind him, as a bodyguard opens the door to reveal another incredibly high-profile guest stepping onto the pavement. Introducing Carl Cavendish, the highly influential vice chairman of the Global Guild Federation himself, leaving the student spectators completely frozen in sheer disbelief at such a legendary arrival, whispering that these are mythical figures you would be lucky to see once in a lifetime, which explains why the entire administration building was completely cleared out for their arrival, as the principal officially announces that 184 students are participating today, revealing that while most chose safe dungeons, only 2 brave teams locked in the deadly D rank. Sigrid, the Secretary General of the Global Guild Federation, expresses surprise that any student teams actually chose the D rank dungeon, questioning the principal on whether the school properly educated these kids on such lethal professional-grade dangers, prompting the principal to calmly explain that they fully prepared the students for this reality, as a live feed shows an F-rank student named Jing Yane blasting a lizard monster with lightning, though the broadcast warns that the massive F-rank monster lord will require absolute maximum effort to defeat. While over in the E-rank dungeon, a terrified squad is already pinned down by sticky webs, staring in absolute horror as giant multi-eyed stag spiders crawl down from the ceiling to hunt them, leaving one of the trapped students crying in panic over the insane unexpected spike in difficulty, which prompts Sigrid to turn back to the principal and ask what safety measures protect these kids, only for the principal to offer a reassuring smile, calling the students their most valuable resource. Outside each dungeon portal, armed Imperial Guild personnel stand completely ready to intervene, while inside, a terrifying monster corners a student who is desperately trying to survive, forcing the panicked kid to scream his withdrawal command directly into his glowing wristband, which instantly teleports his beaten squad back to the safety of the university's recovery room. Back in the observation hall, Sigrid notes that 2 teams still boldly chose the D-rank dungeon, prompting Gong Lin to sneer that he is eager to see exactly how many minutes they last, while the live broadcast shows Si Chen's squad trekking through a freezing, snow-covered mountain pass. Arriving at the high-risk Cloudwood summit, the boys freeze as creepy shadows gather in the trees, revealing a terrifying wraithwing monkey that glares down at them with a bloodthirsty grin, prompting Shi Chen to quickly warn his team to brace for high-speed aerial dive attacks. As the boys trek through the snow, massive shadows loom ominously over their path, and 3 terrifying wraithwing monkeys suddenly dive down from the sky with bloodthirsty shrieks, prompting Shi Chen to instantly react as he spots the incoming aerial threat, while his roommates are violently blown back by the sheer force of the wind, sending another teammate flying through the air as the beasts unleash their high-speed assault. Miraculously, the roommates scramble to their feet, completely shocked that they actually survived the initial dive. But their relief is cut short when a massive, bloodied beast crashes heavily into the snow, leaving Ma Long to stare in absolute, wide-eyed disbelief at the scene unfolding before him. Realizing that Si Chen has already effortlessly slaughtered all 3 D-rank monsters by himself, standing amidst the carnage with glowing yellow eyes, our boy calmly tells his stunned team to focus on self-defense, as a massive bolt of yellow lightning strikes the snowy ground right in front of them. His roommates are sent tumbling backward through the snow, desperately trying to dodge the shockwave, crashing hard against the frozen trees as the sheer force of the blast rattles their bones, leaving Ma Long to finally realize why their captain forced them through such intense cardio while their self-proclaimed dorm boss grits his teeth, realizing he must rely entirely on our boy, who is already mid-air, effortlessly slicing through another wave of incoming monsters with lightning-fast strikes. Suddenly, a swarm of screeching wraithwing monkeys dives down from the canopy to ambush them, but Si Chen intercepts them instantly, unleashing a blinding web of yellow energy slashes, leaving his roommates completely frozen in shock as they witness his true, terrifying power. Realizing that our boy's combat strength is already far beyond the level of any student. Watching Cheon effortlessly tear through the sky like a seasoned, battle-hardened warrior, Ma Long grinds his teeth, feeling completely left behind by his captain's absurd growth. But there is no time to sulk as another screeching beast dives straight for them. Refusing to stay a helpless spectator, Ma Long leaps forward with his fists blazing, catching the monster's razor-sharp claws barehanded in a brilliant shower of sparks, while shouting at his teammates that they cannot just act like deadweight anymore. Hearing his passionate roar, the other roommates suddenly snap out of their daze, realizing that this high-stakes graduation exam is their battle to win as well, prompting the green-haired mage to step up with a wild grin on his face, unleashing a massive wave of thorny vines to lock down the remaining beasts. This green-haired roommate's thorny vines wrap tightly around the thrashing wraithwing monkey, but the powerful D-rank beast instantly breaks free with a deafening bloodthirsty screech, leaving the green-haired mage sweating in panic as his crowd control fails immediately, prompting the blue-haired roommate to quickly cast his freezing cloud chant, Frost Breeze spell, which successfully slows the monster down and gives them a brief window to coordinate, as the green-haired mage charges back in with his fist glowing with elemental energy, combining their spells into a devastating combo that completely locks the beast in place, giving Shangzuo the perfect opening to summon a massive blazing fireball overhead, which he hurls downward with absolute force to execute his signature burst flame bullet strike, detonating directly against the trapped monster in a massive blinding explosion of fire. Screeching through the smoke, the terrifying beast shrugs off the massive explosion with a bloodthirsty roar, leaving Shangzuo completely stunned by just how incredibly tanky this D-rank monster actually is. As the thrashing creature violently tears through the flames to continue its relentless assault, forcing the green-haired roommate to desperately strain his body to maintain his failing vine trap, while the blue-haired mage screams that he is also hitting his absolute limit with his freezing spell. Refusing to let their hard work go to waste, Xiangzuo gathers a massive swirling fireball overhead, roaring with pure determination as he pours every single drop of his remaining mana into the attack, detonating his ultimate converged burst flame bullet to completely vaporize the beast in a blinding nuclear inferno. As the smoke clears, a hovering exam drone chirps a cheerful notification confirming their successful D-rank kill, leaving the exhausted roommates collapsing onto the snow, absolutely ecstatic that they actually survived their first real trial. Standing quietly in the falling snow, Sichen listens intently to his celebrating teammates, who are busy high-fiving over the rare D-rank monster loot dropped in the crater, as Xiangzuo flashes a smug, exhausted grin, declaring their hard-fought victory a total piece of cake. Giving them a calm nod of approval, our boy stands tall as the exam drone chirps, which absolutely breaks the principal back in the observation room, leaving him screaming in pure shock, completely unable to comprehend how a bunch of supposedly green students just vaporized a D-rank beast. Meanwhile, Gong Lin and the other high-profile guests watch the live feed and stunned on silence, though the relaxed young man sitting in the center casually praises our boy's excellent performance, staring intently at the screen as the broadcast zooms in on Sichen's calm face, before noting with a sharp, knowing smirk that this kid looks exactly like an old acquaintance. Staring at the live broadcast, the relaxed young man finally remembers Sichen's name, while Gong Lin narrows his eyes in silence, clearly displeased by this sudden revelation, prompting the principal to break out in a cold sweat as the tension spikes. But he quickly points to another screen, desperately trying to redirect everyone's attention, showing the second brave team that chose a D-rank dungeon already slicing through monsters, which immediately catches Sigrid's eye as she praises their flawless professional-grade coordination, leaving the relaxed young man to lean back, thoroughly amused by this year's crop, while the principal grins, knowing the real show is only just beginning, as a swarm of terrifying, toxic, noxious toadstools charges forward in the Gloomvine Grotto, only to be instantly weakened by a blonde guitarist playing her debuffing Withering Hymn spell. At her signal, the team's star mage claps his hands together with a surge of purple energy, unleashing a powerful astral fusion spell that instantly binds the weakened toadstool monsters together, giving their formidable captain the perfect opening to draw his blade with a sharp metallic ring, as he executes a devastating searing fracture strike that completely vaporizes the trapped targets in a massive explosion. This elite captain is none other than Gong Ting, a powerful flame soldier wielding a blazing sword, who confidently laughs with his squad about how these exam monsters are identical to their training targets, prompting his teammate to smugly note that having the influential Gong family rig the exam makes life incredibly easy, as they eagerly march deeper into the grotto to hunt down the dungeon boss and claim their victory. Meanwhile, back on the freezing mountain pass, a sudden violent blizzard begins to howl around Sichen's squad, forcing our boy to narrow his eyes as he senses a massive, dangerous presence approaching through the storm. Reaching the snowy peak of the D-rank dungeon, the exhausted squad finally catches their breath, only to freeze as a massive frost wraith ape casually snacks on a dead monkey, leaving the terrified roommates instantly regretting every single life choice that brought them here, especially when the giant beast locks its glowing red eyes directly onto them, prompting the green-haired mage to lose his absolute mind as the monster spots them, screaming in terror as the giant ape charges while Sichen calmly stands his ground, intercepting the beast midair with a devastating lightning-infused kick straight to its jaw, sending the massive D-rank monster monster crashing violently back into the frozen ground, as our boy slides gracefully across the snow, crackling with yellow electrical energy, before unleashing a blinding follow-up strike that tears right through the beast's defenses. Slicing through the air with a flurry of lightning-fast yellow-infused strikes, Cheon leaves his spectating roommates sweating in absolute wide-eyed disbelief, as the system confirms the Frostwraith ape's defeat with a meager experience reward, prompting our boy to narrow his eyes at the surprisingly low-quality loot. But his thoughts are interrupted by a sudden ecstatic shout from his teammates, who have rushed over to a massive hollowed-out tree stump nearby, discovering a breathtaking cluster of glowing mid-tier mana crystals hidden inside, leaving Ma Long to eagerly reach out, dreaming of a massive payday. But Cheon suddenly senses danger, shouting a desperate warning to stop, as a blinding, icy blue light violently erupts from the crystals to consume them. As the blinding blue light erupts, the roommates are instantly caught completely off guard, while Cheon can only watch in frustration as the sudden trap springs shut, unleashing a massive freezing Arctic Nova spell that instantly encases the entire peak in solid ice, leaving Ma Long frozen solid right next to the shattered, malfunctioning exam drone, which immediately cuts the live broadcast feed, displaying a glaring no signal warning back at headquarters. Watching the screen go dark, the principal smugly sighs that these low-tier losers finally hit their limit, prompting the panicked staff to suggest sending a rescue team before the students actually freeze to death. But a powerful voice suddenly cuts through the room, demanding they give the kids a little more time. This commanding figure points out that the students' vital signs are still completely stable, insisting that they should let the kids decide for themselves whether to quit or fight. Sneezing violently in the freezing storm, the blue-haired roommate barely manages to keep his eyes open, shivering uncontrollably as he realizes his teammates have all been completely encased in solid ice. But his panic spikes when a massive dark shadow suddenly looms directly over his head, revealing a terrifying floating skeletal entity that radiates an incredibly oppressive, freezing aura. Terrified, the young mage instantly recognizes this chilling creature from his Academy monster manuals, identifying the sinister beast as a C-rank frostbound Lich King that loves to torture its prey, prompting him to immediately turn tail and sprint away across the slippery frozen ground, desperately searching for any sign of Cheon before he gets completely cornered, until a sharp, jagged ice spike suddenly shoots up and pierces straight through his leg, leaving him screaming in agony as the laughing monster prepares to finish him off. Clutching his bleeding leg, the blue-haired mage ignores the system's urgent prompt to withdraw from the exam, desperately refusing to quit because he knows thawing out Cheon is their only hope, prompting him to channel his perfect origin spell directly into the massive block of ice. But another jagged ice spike suddenly tears through his shoulder in a spray of blood, slamming him hard against the snowy ground as his purification spell instantly fails. Hovering above, the frostbound Lich King cackles maniacally while preparing its deadly frostbone skewers attack, summoning a deadly storm of razor-sharp ice shards to completely finish off the intruder, leaving the battered student clutching his mangled arm as the system warns of critical damage, though the mere thought of quitting makes him grit his teeth in absolute fury. Remembering a lifetime of being bullied and left behind because he always chose to run away. Remembering how he was always dragged along as a useless burden in the past. This blue-haired roommate recalls the painful memories of being mocked by his peers, fueling a sudden surge of absolute, unyielding determination to finally change his destiny, prompting him to desperately press his glowing hand against the ice encasing Cheon, channeling every single ounce of his remaining mana into his perfect origin purification spell, while the frostbound Lich King watches in mild amusement as the weak human struggles, screaming through the pain as his glowing hand begins to crack the thick ice, desperately pouring his life force into the spell as the freezing cold threatens to consume him, until Cheon's eyes suddenly snap open, crackling with a terrifying golden electrical energy, shattering the massive block of ice in a spectacular explosion as our boy activates Godspeed. This frostbound Lich King's jaw practically drops as its icy trap is shattered to pieces, while Cheon flashes forward like a golden streak to catch his battered, bleeding teammate, who weakly chuckles that our boy still had to do all the heavy lifting anyway. But our hero quickly reassures him before checking if his gruesome wounds are stable. Shivering against the rock, the kid warns that this C-rank boss cannot freeze them again, just as a terrifying, low rumble echoes through the snowy peak to interrupt them, revealing a colossal spiked dome of pure frost magic conjured directly above their heads, while the skeletal monster cackles maniacally at the sheer helplessness of its tiny prey, leaving the terrified roommate screaming in absolute despair as the inescapable spell descends, detonating in a massive, blinding explosion of ice that completely swallows the entire mountain. Floating triumphantly above the frozen peak, the frostbound Lich King cackles as its massive explosion settles, completely convinced that the pesky human intruders have finally been wiped off the face of the earth. But its smug celebration is cut short when it spots a blinding blue light piercing through the ice. Standing tall amidst the freezing winds, Cheon reveals his hidden frosty physique trait, which completely breaks the skeletal monster's brain as it screams in absolute, jaw-dropping shock, while the blue-haired roommate stares in wide-eyed disbelief, utterly baffled by this sudden display of frost immunity, stuttering uncontrollably as he tries to process how a lightning assassin could possibly possess such power, before realizing with a jolt of pure awe that our boy is actually a legendary dual-class awakener. Apologizing to his battered teammate for misjudging the danger, Cheon triggers a dramatic class change, channeling a surge of pink and blue energy to prepare a devastating counterattack that will end this fight. Channeling his newly awakened power, Cheon prepares to end the battle with a single decisive strike, apologizing to his battered teammates for letting things get this dangerous in the first place. As the system interface flashes to confirm that his legendary class change is finally complete. Now fully transformed into an abyssal fiend, our boy radiates a terrifying dark pink aura, leaving the blue-haired roommate completely paralyzed with shock as he watches this impossible transformation, recalling how normal awakeners are strictly locked into a single class from birth, with only a 1 in 10 million anomaly ever managing to awaken two distinct classes at once. These legendary dual-classers are so incredibly rare that less than 10 exist across the entire globe, making the hyperventilating roommate realize that his quiet friend is actually a world-class miracle, as Cheon clenches his fist, crackling with golden lightning to prove he is indeed that 1 in a million genius. As the blue-haired roommate stares in awe, he realizes Cheon actually has 3 classes, watching a massive glowing broadsword materialize in our boy's hand as his stats skyrocket, maxing out both his strength and stamina to absolutely ridiculous levels in an instant, before he leaps high into the air and unleashes a devastating pink-infused downward slash, leaving his injured teammate completely speechless as the sheer pressure of the attack shakes the mountain, while the frostbound Lich King shrieks in absolute terror as the massive blade descends, executing a flawless triple calamity strike that completely vaporizes the C-rank boss in a single blow. Shattered bones rain down onto the snowy peak as the terrifying skeletal monster is utterly obliterated, earning Cheon a massive chunk of experience that instantly pushes him to level 17. Kneeling beside the monster's skull, the blue-haired roommate weakly chuckles at our boy's absurd, godlike power. Cheon casually asks if his teammate has enough juice left to defrost their frozen roommates, prompting the panicked mage to sprint away, desperately remembering they completely forgot about their frozen allies. While Cheon turns his attention back to the shattered skull of the defeated monster lord, activating his Devour skill to absorb the remaining essence of the C-rank boss, as a massive surge of dark energy swirls around him during the absorption process, successfully integrating the creature's power directly into his own growing arsenal of skills, earning him a brand new Cloud Mage class outside of his usual Dream Realm training, which makes our boy realize his unique abilities are evolving far faster than expected. Luckily, the frozen exam drone means his secret multi-class transformation remains completely hidden from the public, until a strange glitching yellow light suddenly begins to buzz directly from his chest. A flashing system notification confirms that Cheon's Lightning Assassin class has successfully leveled up, leaving our boy staring in utter confusion as he receives a mysterious star point. Meanwhile, over in the Gloomvine Grotto, Team Gong Ting is having an absolutely miserable time, struggling desperately to hold back a massive D-rank giant man-eater flower monster, as an archer teammate fires a barrage of crackling yellow lightning arrows, only to realize the tanky beast is completely ignoring their attacks without taking damage. Suddenly, the colossal plant monster breaks free with a violent thrash of its vines, sending the terrified vanguard crashing into the dirt while screaming in absolute panic, leaving his desperate teammates to pin all their hopes on their leader Gong Ting, who is currently standing in a glowing magic circle while his stats are boosted. Feeling the massive surge of buffed strength coursing through his veins, Gong Ting decides it is finally time to end this, launching himself forward like a blazing meteor as he readies his glowing sword for a decisive strike, slicing clean through the massive stem of the giant man-eater monster with blinding speed, screaming for the beast to split in half as his blade erupts with a blinding fiery light, unleashing a massive, explosive burst of fire magic that completely engulfs the colossal plant, vaporizing the D-rank monster instantly in a spectacular pillar of flame called Sorrowblade Burst. Watching the massive beast burn to ashes, his teammates erupt in wild cheers for their legendary leader, while a system announcement confirms Team Gong Ting has successfully cleared the D-rank dungeon in just 35 minutes, securing a perfect score of 150 points that they are absolutely certain will set a new school record, completely unaware that even the lowest tier dungeons usually take normal teams over an hour to clear. Meanwhile, inside the exam waiting room, a bunch of battered students are nursing their bruised egos, with one traumatized kid literally begging imaginary monsters for mercy while his bandaged buddy tries to calm him down, as others openly weep over how absolutely brutal the trial turned out to be. Watching the miserable crowd from across the hall, a smug rival spots a familiar group of faces, letting out a nasty sneer as he prepares to talk some massive trash, targeting Cheon and his shivering blanket-wrapped teammates who are currently recovering on a nearby bench. Our boy barely even blinks as the loudmouth struts over to initiate some classic high school drama, loudly mocking them for bailing early and failing the exam like a bunch of weaklings. But before the bully can drag this embarrassing roast any further, a stern voice suddenly rings out, ordering Gong Cheng to back off and shut his mouth before he makes a complete fool of himself. Spotting a group of high-ranking officials entering the hall, Gong Cheng quickly tells his ally to go greet them, just as a loud, slow clapping echoes through the quiet waiting room, revealing a sharply dressed, pink-haired vice chairman who is absolutely beaming with pride. This powerful official strides down the center of the hall with his entourage, leaving Gong Cheng completely starstruck as he watches the pinnacle of world power approach, eagerly extending his hand to welcome the legendary figure directly to their group, only for the vice chairman to walk right past him without even a single glance. Turning around in absolute shock, the stunned bully watches the VIP approach Shi-Chen instead, praising our boy for clearing a D-rank Devil's Cave in a mere 21 minutes, placing a friendly hand on his shoulder while declaring that even professional raid teams couldn't match that speed. Gong Cheng's jaw drops in absolute disbelief upon hearing about the 21-minute clear, while Shi-Chen remains completely unfazed as his teammates celebrate the massive praise. Realizing that Carl Cavendish is actually the second most powerful figure in the world. Looking directly at our boy, the vice chairman notes that this trip was highly successful, before casually mentioning that the young master of the Gong family also did quite well, prompting the guild master, Gong Lin, to humbly accept the high official's flattering praise. However, Gong Lin's expression quickly darkens as he glances back at his humiliated son, just as the vice chairman decides it is finally time to head back, leaving the hall in high spirits while congratulating the principal on finding two absolute prodigies. Stepping up to the microphone, the principal announces a tie for the Perfect Score Championship. Our boys' teammates erupt in pure ecstasy, thrilled to have secured their tickets into the prestigious Empire Guild. Meanwhile, Gongting's squad celebrates their shared victory while their captain stands in brooding, silent frustration. As the principal announces both captains will receive core management roles and split the $1 million prize money. This sudden announcement sparks an intense, silent stare-down between the two newly crowned top-tier rookies, leaving our boy secretly panicking because $500,000 won't cover his massive debt to Qingji. Suddenly, Gong Ting steps forward to interrupt the celebrations, declaring there can only be one true champion, pointing directly at our hero as he demands an immediate one-on-one tiebreaker match to settle the score. This unexpected outburst sends a wave of absolute shock through the entire crowd of students and high-ranking officials, prompting the panicked principal to whisper that the exam is over and a tie is already perfect. But the stubborn young master ignores him, staring down his rival with a high-stakes wager in mind. Shi-Chen casually asks if winning the duel means keeping the entire $1 million prize, prompting Gong Ting to confidently declare that the winner takes absolutely every single cent, while the vice chairman watches with amusement, delighted that the entertainment is still going, as the two top-tier rookies slowly step forward to face each other on the stage, locking eyes in an intense stare-down to decide exactly how they will settle their score. Meanwhile, Qingji sits comfortably in his lavish office, thoroughly impressed by the news, generously offering to completely waive the massive debt as a brilliant angel investment in our boy. But Shi-Chen merely sits across from him with a completely calm and unbothered expression, firmly insisting that a debt is a debt and must be repaid in full, prompting the wealthy investor to smile as he prepares to deliver two highly important updates. Explaining his situation, Shi-Chen asks for a brief one-week extension on his massive debt, revealing that he will be settling the score with Gong Ting in a wild devil's cave, which immediately causes the wealthy investor to jump up in absolute shock and disbelief, warning our boy that entering such a dangerous zone without professional training is pure suicide. To sweeten the deal, Shi-Chen calmly offers to hand over all the rare monster materials, leaving Qingji sweating as he realizes this kid has absolutely zero fear of death. But before they can finalize the extension, the investor sets down his glass to share something else, catching our hero's full attention as the atmosphere in the room suddenly turns incredibly serious, as the blue-haired investor locks eyes with him to deliver a highly confidential piece of news, preparing to reveal a secret that could completely change the trajectory of our boy's future. Qingju's eyes narrow behind his glasses as a cold sweat drips down his face, preparing to drop a massive bombshell that completely shifts the mood of their conversation, standing up abruptly as he stares down at our boy with absolute dead-serious gravity. Meanwhile, over at Qingshui Middle School, the afternoon sun shines down on a peaceful campus, where Shiyun happily stretches her arms, celebrating that her brutal final exams are finally over, pulling out her phone with a bright smile to welcome the start of summer vacation, before a sudden realization hits her, making her stop dead in her tracks, remembering that today is also the exact day of her older brother's high-stakes graduation assessment. Flashback to 4 years ago, when a younger Shi-Chen ecstatically held up his university admission letter, leaving a wide-eyed Siyun absolutely thrilled that he would follow in their parents' legendary footsteps. A younger Shi-Chen promises his sister he will join a top guild and secure their future, determined to uncover the dark truth behind their parents' sudden and mysterious disappearance, leaving young Siyun absolutely beaming with pride over her brother's grand ambitions. Unfortunately, reality hits hard when Si-Chen reaches his senior year without awakening any powers, forcing him to put on a brave face to keep his sister from worrying, flashing a painful smile while claiming he just needs to keep working hard, but deep down, being the only student who failed to awaken left him utterly isolated, a silent struggle he carefully hid from his sister to protect her feelings. Suddenly, a cheerful classmate snaps Siyun out of her deep, melancholy thoughts, eagerly asking if she heard about the university producing 2 absolute genius graduates today. Jutong keeps rambling on about how the 2 geniuses led their teams to perfect scores, before suddenly asking if Siyun's older brother goes to that exact same school. But before she can answer, a smug, pink-haired boy suddenly interrupts their conversation, flashing a sparkling smile while inviting Siyun to a fancy penthouse dinner tonight, leaving Jutong completely starstruck while Siyun remains totally silent and unimpressed. Without saying a single word, Siyun suddenly bolts down the hallway at full speed, determined to rush home and cook a massive feast to comfort her supposedly unawakened brother. Later that evening, the lights shine brightly from their small rented apartment, where a massive steaming hot pot feast sits beautifully arranged across the dining table, leaving Si-chen staring in absolute shock at the incredible spread his sister prepared. Sitting down to eat, Si-chen happily digs into the delicious sukiyaki hot pot his sister prepared, while the television in the background begins broadcasting the evening news about the university's graduation assessment, reporting that the legendary vice chairman Carl Cavendish visited the exam site in person to observe, which only makes Si-yoon feel worse as she assumes her brother is just acting tough. But the news anchor suddenly announces that the exam produced a highly rare dual champion outcome, showing footage of Carl Cavendish praising the top-tier rookies before specifically naming the standout performer, which turns out to be none other than her supposedly unawakened brother Si-chen. Si-yoon whips her head around in absolute shock, her jaw dropping at the screen, staring wide-eyed as she tries to process the mind-blowing revelation that her brother is a genius, while a mysterious figure with a whip prepares a dangerous stage for the upcoming battle. Gong Lin stands over his bloodied son with a whip, reminding him of the audience he invited, but his expression quickly turns to pure disgust as he berates the boy for botching the performance, pointing out that Gong Ting practically lost to a complete nobody despite all his elite training, which is why the ruthless guildmaster has already personally arranged their upcoming high-stakes tiebreaker match, leaving his humiliated son to silently endure the harsh lecture without saying a single word, because first place must belong to their family, no matter what underhanded methods they have to use. Meanwhile, back at the apartment, the television broadcast continues reporting on the historic dual champion exam results, showing footage of Vice Chairman Carl Cavendish praising the two prodigies who achieved perfect scores. Just as the anchor finally announces the name of the standout genius who led his team, Siyun whips her head around in absolute shock, unable to believe her ears. Siyun stares at the television screen in absolute disbelief as the news anchor announces the name, showing the legendary Carl Cavendish himself praising her brother's mind-blowing performance during the graduation exam, prompting the stunned girl to slowly turn around and ask if that genius is really him, while Si-chen casually shovels rice into his mouth, completely unfazed by his own legendary status. Hearing his nonchalant confirmation, her spoon slips from her hand and shatters directly onto the floor, as a dramatic bolt of lightning flashes outside to perfectly match her internal state of shock. Realizing that her supposedly weak, unawakened brother is actually the top-tier prodigy of the entire nation, she stands up trembling, unable to comprehend how he earned a personal shout-out from world leaders, leaving our hero sitting awkwardly at the table while his sister completely breaks down in tears, wiping away her tears with a proud smile, finally realizing her brother is an absolute legend. Smiling through her tears, Si-yoon proudly looks at her brother with absolute joy, while Si-chen stares back in silence, processing his sister's emotional outburst. As the scene shifts to a high-end restaurant on the night of the exam, where a pink-haired man casually relaxes at a table with premium Wagyu beef, looking up with a smug expression to ask for an update on their target, prompting his blonde companion Sigrid to sit quietly in front of her untouched drink. Sliding a thick black folder across the table, she presents her compiled intelligence, revealing a top-secret file on an elusive entity codenamed the Glutton, which apparently hasn't left a single trace over the past year, as if it knows it's being watched. Accepting the report, the pink-haired man praises her work and tells her to eat first. Sigrid leans in slightly, lowering her voice to deliver one final crucial piece of information, revealing she has been keeping a close eye on someone highly suspicious who recently crossed paths with him, pointing out that this mysterious target's power level has been skyrocketing at an absolutely unnatural speed, which is way too off the charts for their organization to simply brush aside. Meanwhile, inside the towering Dreadspire, Si-chen has spent 2 solid weeks grinding the first floor, completely adapting to a brutal tenfold gravity environment while leveling up his Lightning Assassin class, realizing with a smirk that none of his 4 powerful classes have even hit their ceiling yet. He immediately dumps his newly earned stat point straight into speed, boosting it to A-rank levels. But his quiet moment of self-congratulation is cut short as a pack of cosmic panthers surrounds him, growling menacingly as they prepare to test our boy's newly upgraded reflexes in the snow. Standing tall on the snowy peak is the first floor's ultimate overlord, a massive glowing purple lion, prompting Si-chen to immediately activate his Lightning Assassin class, channeling the Flash God skill, as the cosmic panthers charge down the slope while lightning crackles violently across the sky. But every single time our boy spots an opening and goes in for a strike, this majestic beast simply blinks out of existence with a swift, blinding flash, only to instantly reappear right next to whichever cosmic lioness is currently furthest away from him. Analyzing their tactics, Si-chen realizes the pack constantly shifts positions to adapt on the fly, while their cowardly leader always maintains the absolute maximum distance from the danger zone, leaving our hero to glare at this lazy boss who lets everyone else do the dirty work, deeply wondering exactly what kind of bizarre class this teleporting Lion King actually possesses. A cosmic panther lunges forward with a fierce growl, aiming straight for our boy, but Si-chen is already channeling his lightning, ready to counter with blinding speed. delivering a heavy, crackling blow that lands with a satisfying thud against the beast, only for the target to instantly vanish into thin air with a purple flash, leaving our hero to realize that whenever he targets a specific cosmic lioness, she immediately swaps places to safety right beside the glowing purple overlord. And the moment he pauses to think, another beast charges in to bait him, forcing Cheon to flare up his golden lightning to prepare for a wider assault, unleashing a flurry of rapid strikes that slice across the snowy battlefield. Yet the pack's flawless coordination keeps them perfectly out of reach on the slopes. Charging forward with a crackling fist, Cheon targets another cosmic panther on the snowy slope, only for his strike to hit empty air as the beast vanishes with a bright purple flash, instantly swapping places with another pack member to completely reset their defensive line, forcing our boy to pivot mid-air and launch another rapid lightning strike at his elusive target. But the result is exactly the same as the beast blinks away with frustrating ease, leaving him trapped in a relentless, exhausting loop that slowly drains his stamina. Panting heavily as sweat drips down his face, Cheon glares at his opponents, realizing the smug purple overlord is literally playing with him like a toy, before a sudden realization hits him, making his glowing yellow eyes narrow with determination, questioning why he is even trying to beat these teleporting beasts at their own speed game. Deciding that chasing them is a fool's errand, Cheon initiates a class switch, realizing that if these slippery beasts refuse to meet him head-on in close combat, he can simply pull out his mage class and tear them apart from a distance, instantly transforming into his Frostone King form as the system confirms the class switch, immediately unleashing his devastating Frostspike spell to rain frozen death from above, sending a massive barrage of ice shards crashing down onto the fleeing cosmic panthers, leaving the Overlord to watch in horror as its entire pack gets utterly pulverized, knowing that while mages are glass cannons up close, they completely dominate at range, prompting him to redirect the massive torrent of ice spikes directly toward the boss, which completely obliterates the snowy ground in a massive, freezing explosion. This purple overlord desperately tries to escape by opening a dark teleportation portal, but the massive shockwave of ice completely seals off the entire snowy battlefield, leaving the trapped beasts with absolutely nowhere left to run from his ultimate spell. This glowing purple lion roars in absolute terror as the freezing temperature suddenly plummets, while Cheon floats high above them, preparing to drop a massive frostblast bomb, declaring with a cold glare that there isn't a single corner left to hide in. This overlord lets out one final, desperate roar as the freezing energy closes in, before the colossal ice bomb detonates, engulfing the entire area in a blinding explosion. This massive blast instantly freezes the overlord and its remaining pack solid in thick ice, allowing Cheon to casually switch back to his main class as the battle ends. With his eyes glowing a sharp electric blue, Cheon prepares to end this fight, unleashing a devastating triple cataclysm strike that slices straight through the frozen overlord, shattering the massive beast and its pack into countless pieces across the snowy peak, leaving the remains of the cosmic panthers to slowly dissolve into dark wispy smoke, as the frozen remnants of the battlefield completely evaporate into the cold mountain air. Standing victoriously in the quiet snow, our boy watches the final traces of the pack fade away, prompting a golden system notification to announce his level up to 24 along with rare loot, while the defeated purple overlord lies bleeding out on the snow marked as ready to be devoured. Channeling his gluttony skill, a bright white light begins to gather in Cheon's hand, demanding the dying beast reveal its true class before he absorbs its power completely. A surge of dark purple energy crackles and buzzes violently from the defeated overlord, as Cheon channels his gluttony skill, pulling the beast's essence directly into his hand, absorbing the raw power until it condenses into a bright glowing pink card, revealing the overlord's true class to be a rare stellar tamer named Lion King Phantomane. Staring at the card, our boy admits he has never seen a class like this before, realizing why the cowardly lion kept refusing to engage him in direct combat, since its own physical stats were terrible, forcing it to hide behind its contracted beasts. But he has to admit that the stellar warp teleportation skill is genuinely top tier, though forcing a beast contract requires absolute intimidation to make the targets submit. Just as he finishes inspecting his new card, a sudden shift in the wind catches his attention. Looking around, Cheon realizes the snowy mountain peak has completely vanished, replaced by a barren, bone-dry desert wasteland stretching as far as the eye can see. But before he can process this sudden environmental shift, a strange sound echoes nearby, as a massive glowing orange portal to the second floor finally opens up in the distance, only for a pair of menacing purple eyes to suddenly glare at him from the shadows. Whipping his head around, our boy instantly senses a lingering threat nearby, spotting a tiny growling creature hiding inside a ribcage of bleached animal bones, which turns out to be an adorable chained-up baby lion trying its absolute best to look fierce, prompting Cheon to realize this little cub is the sole survivor of the Overlord's pack, as he summons his crackling golden lightning blade to decide the tiny beast's fate. Since the little cub didn't vanish when the Overlord died, it clearly wasn't a contracted beast, and looking closer, Cheon notices glowing purple stellar chains tightly binding the poor creature. prompting our boy to realize the cruel Lion King must have kept it locked up here. As the tiny cub stares up at him with wide, terrified pink eyes. But instead of attacking, Chen swings his lightning blade to shatter the heavy chains, calmly offering to give the little beast its long-awaited freedom back, reminding the cub that this desolate desert was its true home all along. Looking down, Chen shares a rare moment of genuine empathy with the survivor, admitting he knows exactly how painful it is to watch everything you love get destroyed, before turning toward the massive orange portal to finally head down to the next floor. Before Chen can take a single step, a sudden pink system notification pings beside his ear, revealing an incoming beast contract request that boasts a flawless 100% success rate, leaving our boy completely stunned as he stares blankly at the unexpected prompt, which reveals that the tiny cub, Lion King Leo, is begging to join his squad, prompting Chen to look down and ask if the little guy genuinely wants to tag along. This adorable baby lion immediately lets out a fierce, squeaky roar in response, though our hero warns him that clearing this tower will only get more brutal, reminding the tiny cub that death is a very real possibility on the upper floors. But the determined little beast just roars even louder to prove its absolute resolve. Smirking at the cub's fiery spirit, Chen accepts the contract with a confident nod. With a sharp purple gleam in his eye, Chen officially accepts the contract, sealing the deal as a glowing star sigil flashes inside the cub's pink eye, instantly activating a set of powerful passive skills that link their fates together. Looking down at his energetic new companion, our boy smiles and welcomes him to the team, warning the little guy to stay safe as they approach the towering orange portal, stepping directly into the swirling vortex of flame to descend to the next floor. Emerging on the other side, Chen's eyes narrow as intense heat hits him, revealing a brutal volcanic cavern filled with rivers of molten lava that make him sweat, while little Leo peers over the rocky ledge, completely baffled by the glowing magma, leaving our hero to wonder what kind of fiery threats await them on this floor. A sudden blinding flash of light erupts out of nowhere, catching him completely off guard. And before he can even react, a devastating blast punches a massive hole straight through his chest, leaving him spitting blood as his vision fades in absolute shock and agony, only for Chen to suddenly bolt upright in his bed, gasping heavily for air, realizing he was just brutally one-shot by an unseen monster in a terrifyingly realistic nightmare, shaking him to his core as he contemplates the sheer scale of this new threat. His tense thoughts are suddenly interrupted by a cheerful shout from behind his bedroom door, presenting a surprisingly gourmet breakfast spread of steaming ramen and fresh fruit waiting for him, which makes our boy wonder if his sister is secretly trying to butter him up, especially when Si-yoon casually orders him to do the chores before heading out the door. Si-chen watches his sister rush out, questioning why she is in a hurry during summer break, only to get completely blindsided when she reveals she is heading to a brand new summer job. Since her big brother is bringing in the big bucks, she refuses to lag behind, leaving him with a slammed door and a very demanding list of household chores, forcing our overpowered hero to spend his morning washing dishes and hanging up laundry. Staring blankly into space, Si-chen reflects on how his sister has always been incredibly independent, looking at a framed photo of them together while feeling like she actually takes care of him. Gently picking up the picture, he realizes his peaceful domestic life is strictly on borrowed time, knowing that once school ends, his hunt for Demon King Wrath will take him far away, as she remains the one person he is fighting so hard to protect. Staring blankly, our boy suddenly gets a wild idea that might solve his biggest problem, wondering if his newly acquired summoning skills can actually function outside of the tower. And with a sudden flash of purple light, little Leo tumbles right out of a portal, leaving Chen completely dumbfounded as his eyes glow with matching stellar energy, realizing he can actually summon his contracted beast directly into the real world. Naturally, the tiny cub immediately celebrates his freedom by shredding the living room tissues, prompting our hero to inspect the Phantasmal Lion King card for a permanent solution, discovering a passive teleportation skill that lets him monitor his sister's safety from anywhere. Figuring Si-yoon will happily accept a baby lion since she already loves stray animals, until a sudden loud metallic crash from the kitchen completely shatters his peaceful thoughts. Peeking into the kitchen, Si-chen's heart drops as he spots the source of the noise, finding little Leo happily sitting amidst shattered plates, spilled milk, and absolute domestic chaos. Meanwhile, out in the city streets, a security camera suddenly sparks and gets crushed by a dark force, while a heavily wounded, blood-drenched hunter collapses in an alleyway, clutching his glowing ice daggers, backing away in sheer terror as a massive, shadowy black claw looms directly over him, before the monstrous entity strikes, tearing through his flesh in a brutal, bloody flash, leaving the dying hunter to gasp out in horror, completely unable to comprehend what is killing him, staring with wide, bloodshot eyes as the terrifying creature prepares to consume his very soul, as a glowing green loading bar appears while the shadow beast completely devours the fallen hunter. At that exact moment, Si-yoon walks down a quiet street, completely unaware of the danger lurking nearby. Walking home after a brutal shift, Si-yoon sighs over the endless summer milk tea rush, completely unaware that she is strolling right past a freshly destroyed security camera, heading deeper into a quiet, secluded alleyway as the evening shadows begin to stretch, when sudden, heavy footsteps echoing right behind her make her freeze in her tracks. Whipping her head around in panic, she braces herself for a terrifying monster encounter, only to be greeted by a massive, sparkling bouquet of obnoxious red roses instead. held by a smug, pink-haired classmate named Jin Duoxin, who thinks he is absolute royalty, who casually boasts about booking an entire skyscraper floor just to secure a date with her, prompting a deeply creeped-out Siyun to ask how he even tracked down her neighborhood, which he proudly attributes to his father being a powerful hospital director with endless connections. Turning her back on his flashy advances, Siyun tells the rich kid they belong in different worlds. But instead of taking the hint, Jin Duoxin aggressively grabs her arm to stop her from leaving, whining about how much effort he wasted booking an entire skyscraper floor just to impress her, prompting Siyun to glare back coldly, asking why she should care about his fragile ego, which absolutely insults the spoiled heir, who sneers that she should be grateful he even notices her, his face twisting in pure rage as he begins to threaten her with a dark, menacing tone, only for Siyun to instantly shut him up by delivering a brutal headbutt straight to his nose, leaving the rich boy clutching his bleeding face on the pavement while she roasts his dad's hospital, walking away in absolute disgust after warning him to never ruin her mood like this again. Meanwhile, the quiet city streets fade into the evening as a tense silence settles over the neighborhood. Holding up the fluffy white cub, Cheon presents his sister with her new bodyguard, which instantly sends Siyun into a state of absolute, heart-eyed hyperfixation, as she immediately grabs the baby lion and squeezes him in a joyful hug, completely thrilled when her brother explains that little Leo is officially her responsibility now. Cradling the purring cub, she wonders how such a tiny baby already has a full mane, before excitedly planning a trip to the pet registry office to make him official, leaving Siyun feeling relieved that his sister is finally safe with a hidden protector. His peaceful moment is instantly cut short by a sudden, sharp chime from his phone, prompting our boy to look down at the screen with a tense, serious expression, his eyes narrowing as he reads a message that demands his immediate attention. Looking down at his phone, Siyun sees his official application has finally been approved, prompting a confident smirk as he prepares for the upcoming tiebreaker exam in 6 days. And just like that, the scene cuts to the misty green light forest on exam day. A stern-faced official with glowing glasses steps forward to address the two examinees, explaining that their tiebreaker will take place inside a wild rank D lair hidden within a massive tree, meaning Siyun and his rival must face the exact same dangerous environment together. Though because wild lairs are highly unpredictable, 3 senior guild members have been dispatched as supervisors. Starting with Ivan from the Imperial Guild, a rugged C-rank flora chanter smoking a cigarette, followed by Kai Yu from the Divine Eye Guild, a sharp C-rank core archer wearing a cowboy hat, and finally Sato Uoda from the Silver Wind Guild, a smug C-ranked star warrior sporting shades, as the screen displays the 3 judges who will determine the final scores. A mysterious man in sunglasses watches from a dark monitoring room, prompting his colleagues to ask why the vice chairman is still lingering around, only for him to smirk, claiming nothing could possibly be more entertaining than this. While out in the forest, Sichen and Gongting stand ready for action, as the vice chairman eagerly anticipates a clash between 2 genuine young geniuses, until the announcer raises his hand to officially declare the start of the exam, prompting Sichen to narrow his eyes with absolute focus and determination, while Gongting glares back, ready to settle their score once and for all, as both fighters take their first steps forward into the glowing green arena. Stepping through the portal, Sichen is instantly enveloped in a strange glowing green mist, finding himself standing at the entrance of a massive, hollowed-out tree trunk, while Gongting silently walks ahead, keeping his distance as they enter the wild lair. Meanwhile, the 3 supervisors observe the dead trees, noting it looks like a flora-type lair, when suddenly a strange red static begins to flicker directly across Sichen's chest, triggering a flashing red system alert that warns him of a high-danger creature nearby. Staring at the glowing warning, our boy realizes his system has never reacted like this before, as the red static continues to glitch violently across his body, signaling imminent danger, while the interface flashes repeatedly, confirming a high-risk monster is lurking in the shadows, leaving Shichen completely stunned that his demon heart is actually issuing a direct warning. Before he can even process the threat, the red system warning vanishes just as quickly, leaving Shichen to wonder if high-level monsters can actually bypass rank D restrictions, while a heavy, ominous silence hangs over the twisted branches of the ancient tree. Gongting silently leads the way forward, his hand resting firmly on his sword hilt, while the 3 supervisors watch from a high cliff, noting the incredibly thick fog, when suddenly the rocky ground right in front of the candidates violently bursts open, revealing a grotesque, green-glowing insectoid monster known as a rank D toxic cage ant. Reacting in a split second, Gongting draws his blade and charges directly at the beast, earning a nod of approval from the supervisors, who warn that wild monsters are far more ruthless, as the creature immediately retaliates by launching a barrage of corrosive green poison shots. Dodging the toxic spray with effortless grace, Gongting weaves right through the deadly green projectiles, before leaping high into the air and bringing his glowing blade down in a massive arc, cleanly severing the toxic cage ant's glowing green venom sac with surgical precision. Landing smoothly on his feet, the young swordsman channels his nuclear warrior energy into his blade, thrusting the glowing weapon directly into the core of the screeching green-glowing insectoid monster, triggering his signature incinerating blade-piercing burst to completely vaporize the beast in a massive explosion. As the smoke clears, the 3 supervisors watch from their high cliff with genuine admiration, prompting the cowboy hat-wearing archer Caillou to award him a perfect 10 for field reaction, while Ivan and Sato Uoda follow suit, granting perfect scores for combat logic and finishing power. Standing calmly as he sheathes his blade, Gong Ting basks in the praise of his flawless performance. On the other hand, the supervisors note that Chen showed absolutely no reaction during the fight, leaving the C-rank examiner to silently judge our boy's seemingly lazy performance. While back in the monitoring room, the guild leaders watch his casual strolling with deep curiosity, prompting the vice chairman to ask what exactly Chen is searching for in this foggy forest. As his colleague prepares to guess what kind of strategy our hero is cooking up, until Chen suddenly stops in his tracks, his boot planting firmly on a massive root, staring down at the tangled ancient roots to find a shortcut to secure a high score, before raising his hand as crackling yellow lightning begins to surge wildly around his fist, slamming his lightning-infused fist directly into the ground to shatter the subterranean root network, unleashing a devastating shockwave that forces the hidden underground monsters to burst out in a massive explosion. As the subterranean shockwave tears through the soil, dozens of hidden monsters are blasted high into the air, sending the watching supervisors into an absolute panic as they realize he just triggered a demon's lair. While back in the monitoring room, the vice chairman watches with a deeply intrigued, knowing look as Chen takes a heavy lightning-charged step forward to begin his massive counterattack, transforming into a blinding streak of golden energy as he executes his signature divine flash, slicing clean through the airborne toxic cage ants before they can even register his presence, leaving a trail of severed insectoid limbs and exploding venom sacs raining down in his wake. As he zips across the battlefield like a pinball of pure, unadulterated destruction, before landing in a cool, low stance as the remaining monsters are completely vaporized behind him, leaving our boy standing victorious amidst a literal rain of green blood and shattered carapaces. This three supervisors stare in absolute jaw-dropping shock at the sudden display of power, completely baffled by how an E-rank hunter just effortlessly slaughtered a D-rank horde, leaving them desperately whispering and plotting to find any excuse to lower his score. While the vice chairman watches the feat in silence, his eyes fixed on Chen, prompting a nearby guild leader to burst out laughing at the sheer absurdity of it all. Highly intrigued by this spectacular clash, and wondering how Gong Ting will respond next, as Gong Ting clenches his fist in silent frustration, his pride completely wounded, when suddenly the monitoring screen begins to glitch violently with heavy static, completely losing the video feed as a bright red warning flashes across the monitor, leaving the confused guild leaders to wonder why the signal is acting up again. Inside the monitoring room, a panicked technician frantically types as warning alarms begin to blare, showing the system's communication signal rapidly dropping down to a critical 23%, before the screen glitches completely, displaying a massive question mark as the signal hits zero. Sweating profusely, the technician stares at his console in absolute disbelief at the sudden blackout, screaming to his colleagues about the bizarre anomaly taking over the Rank D demon lair. While outside, the glowing green portal of the dungeon entrance begins to swirl violently, until the portal completely vanishes into thin air, trapping everyone inside the dark cavern. Meanwhile, a strange, ominous pink energy begins to swirl around Chen's head like musical notes, prompting our boy to freeze in place as a chillingly familiar voice echoes in his mind, realizing with absolute horror that this dark, mocking voice belongs to none other than the Demon King. Outside the sealed cave, the tech crew panics as the dungeon entrance completely vanishes, prompting the lead official to sweat bullets while screaming for immediate backup from headquarters. While back inside, a bizarre pink energy begins to drift lazily through the foggy air, leaving a highly confused Gong Ting to look around as a faint melody echoes, which even the three seasoned supervisors can hear, wondering where this creepy music is coming from until Chen recognizes the voice of the Demon King of Wrath speaking directly to him, sending our boy into a spiral of shock since this boss shouldn't appear for 3 years, as his demon heart system goes absolutely haywire with critical contamination warnings once again, forcing him to realize with absolute dread that something massive is standing right behind him, while the eerie pink energy snakes along the roots toward his very heels. Heavy metallic footsteps echo through the cavern as a creepy, mocking laughter reverberates in the air, prompting the dreadlocked supervisor Ivan to sweat bullets while staring into the thick fog, as two glowing pink eyes suddenly pierce through the dark, swirling mist, revealing a terrifying humanoid insectoid monster that mocks the humans for taking the bait. Sweating profusely, Ivan grits his teeth in absolute disbelief at the creature's presence, realizing that a monster capable of human speech must be at least a high-tier C rank, which forces the dreadlocked supervisor to immediately leap into action to protect the candidates, landing protectively in front of Chen and Gong Ting with his glowing pink halberd raised, only to suddenly freeze as a thin line of blood slices clean across his arm before his severed hand and glowing weapon are sent flying into the air by a blindingly fast slash. Watching from a distance, the other two supervisors freeze in absolute horror at the sudden carnage, while the terrifying insectoid beast instantly presses its advantage with another blindingly fast slash, skewering Ivan straight through the shoulder as a fountain of fresh blood sprays into the air. Looming over his bleeding prey, the monster mockingly whispers that they are all going to die right here, but the veteran supervisor merely grits his teeth through the absolutely excruciating pain, unleashing a desperate one-armed counterattack with a glowing blade to catch the creature completely off guard, forcing the arrogant insectoid beast to widen its glowing pink eyes in sheer disbelief. As Ivan lands a heavy kick that sends the monster flying backward through the air, leaving the creature to slide heavily across the dirt to halt its momentum. Clutching his heavily bleeding shoulder, Ivan weakly turns to Cheon to explain he only acted in self-defense. Bleeding heavily from his shoulder, Gongting fiercely claims the monster belongs solely to him, leaving Cheon to silently observe the injured swordsman's reckless, prideful declaration, as our boy's eyes suddenly flash with a sharp, analytical green glow, scanning the dark cavern to analyze the terrifying opponent standing before them, which his system officially identifies as a dangerous C-rank mid-tier insectoid beast. Meanwhile, the other supervisors desperately urge Gongting to retreat for immediate medical treatment, but the stubborn young master flatly refuses to back down from the fight, suddenly channeling his intense nuclear fire energy directly into his bleeding shoulder wound, leaving Cheon highly impressed as he realizes the kid is literally cauterizing his own flesh. Before Gongting draws his blazing sword, ready to face the monster with absolute resolve, Gongting lets out a fierce battle cry, his eyes burning with absolute determination, while the terrifying insectoid monster stares back with its glowing pink eyes, completely unfazed, as the young swordsman leaps high into the air, bringing his blazing blade down with immense force. Outside the sealed cavern, the tech crew and guild leaders discuss the bizarre vanishing of the entrance, prompting the white-haired Empire Guild raid team commander Lin Wook to explain the trap, leaving the panicked guild official to sweat bullets while worrying about Gongting's safety inside. Looking on with a grim expression, Lin Wukui reveals there is only one way to force the exit open, explaining that the trapped hunters must successfully slay the powerful lord of the demon lair, which initially relieves the official, since a D-rank lair should only house a C-rank lord at most, until Lin Wook ominously reveals that the D-rank classification was merely a facade crafted by the Lord. Lin Wukei explains that this hidden demon lair is actually the culprit behind the recent mass disappearances, sending the guild official into a cold sweat as the terrifying reality of the situation sinks in, realizing with absolute dread that they are dealing with a highly dangerous B-rank demon lair. Back inside the cavern, the insectoid monster screeches as it unleashes a flurry of glowing green slashes, forcing Gongting to desperately parry the blindingly fast attacks with his blazing sword, though the sheer force of the impact pushes the young swordsman back across the rocky ground. Screeching in absolute fury, the terrifying insectoid beast prepares to deliver a devastating finishing blow, slamming its massive blade-like leg downward to crush the airborne Gongting into the dirt, only for the powerful strike to miss, shattering the solid stone floor in a massive explosion of dust. Seizing the golden opportunity, Gongting leaps high above the monster to bring his glowing blade down. Gongting delivers a devastating blazing slash that slices the insectoid monster's head clean off, sending the decapitated head spinning wildly through the air as purple blood sprays everywhere, landing with a heavy thud on the dirt right in front of the stunned onlookers, leaving Cheon and the cowboy-hatted supervisor to stare in absolute disbelief at the sudden victory, as Gongting stands triumphantly over the twitching corpse of the defeated dungeon lord. While nearby, the white-coated supervisor uses his green healing magic to treat Ivan's severed arm, prompting the dreadlocked supervisor to look down in confusion as his wristband begins to glow red, realizing with a frown that his device has completely lost its connection to the outside world, as the other supervisors check their own wristbands only to find all their signals are dead. Before Ivan notices a broken camera drone lying uselessly on the ground beside them, Gongting suddenly senses a bizarre, creeping presence behind him and freezes in place, as the decapitated insectoid monster's body begins to twitch and emit a sinister pink aura, rising back up to strike the completely off-guard young swordsman from behind, only for Cheon to instantly intervene, slicing the headless beast into multiple bloody pieces, leaving Gongting to stare in absolute shock at how a decapitated monster was still moving, as Cheon calmly explains that the creature they just fought wasn't the real dungeon lord, warning the terrified supervisors that they need to escape before they get hypnotized next, prompting a deeply unsettled Gongting to demand how our boy even knows all this, while the dreadlocked supervisor Ivan angrily yells that there can only be one C-rank lord, completely refusing to believe that an upper C-rank beast was merely a hypnotized puppet. Cheon's system goes into absolute overdrive, flashing bright red warnings about a high-rank threat, as a sinister pink sound wave begins to ripple violently through the web-covered cavern, instantly taking control of the cowboy-hatted supervisor whose eyes glaze over with a creepy pink glow, while the other two veteran supervisors fall victim to the exact same mental trap, forcing our boy to realize that his warning came just a second too late. Recognizing this specific pulsing pink frequency that easily bypasses all of their physical defenses, because in his past life, the Demon King of Wrath used this exact sound wave, leaving him to hold his dying allies in the rain during that apocalyptic future. A devastating global attack designed to hypnotize and slaughter millions of innocent humans. Now, Cheon must face his newly brainwashed allies before they tear him apart. This brainwashed supervisors march forward in unison, their eyes glowing with a creepy pink light, while Cheon watches them closely, confirming the Dungeon Lord is directly linked to Wrath, as the mind-controlled hunters walk deeper into the dark, web-lined cavern like mindless puppets, their blank silhouettes marching in a neat line beneath the pulsing pink energy waves. Turning around, Si Chen spots Gong Ting standing in a daze with a blank expression, revealing a massive hooded figure surrounded by giant black snakes waiting at the cavern's end. A terrifying altar littered with the rusted weapons and skulls of previous failed challengers, prompting Si Chen to activate his earbuds' pre-programmed beta band audio to cancel out the hypnosis. Realizing his defenseless allies could die at any second if he doesn't act fast, which means he has to take down this creepy snake lord as quickly as possible. This creepy voice of the dungeon lord echoes in the dark, demanding thick, fresh meat, while Si Chen stands completely alert, listening to the monster's hunger-fueled whispers. But the hypnotic frequency suddenly triggers a deep, painful memory from Gong Ting's childhood, where a stern, wealthy father figure coldly praises the young boy for winning another brutal duel, leaving the bruised 8-year-old Gong Ting standing with a bloodied face and a hardened glare. Summoned to a lavish feast, the victorious brother is allowed to eat at the high table. Meanwhile, his defeated brother Gong Cheng is forced to kneel on the cold stone all night. Later that night, the starving boy shivers in the dark until a hand suddenly offers him bread, revealing that Gong Ting secretly snuck out to feed his brother despite the threat of severe punishment, demanding that his bruised siblings shut up and eat before their ruthless father catches them. A brutal, heavy slap suddenly echoes through the room, striking the young boy across the face, leaving the bruised and heavily scarred child kneeling on the floor in front of a whip-wielding figure, as the imposing, glasses-wearing father figure towers over him with a cold, demanding glare, declaring that he has earned the right to set the rules because he is a winner, while the trembling boy can do nothing but silently endure the harsh, suffocating lecture, until the kid suddenly glares back with fierce, defiant eyes, asking if winning means making the rules, prompting the ruthless father to merely let out a cold, mocking laugh at the boy's defiance, before a shattered training sword clatters heavily onto the stone floor in the present day, revealing a defeated, bleeding challenger coughing up blood while looking up in absolute despair, demanding to know why the father made the elite emperor squad do his fighting for him. This ruthless father smirks coldly, boasting that true strength isn't just about personal power, but rather the absolute authority and influence one holds over the lives of others, clenching his fist as he declares that winning is the only absolute rule of their world, demanding that his son always finish first, even if he must abandon his own family, leaving the cold-hearted patriarch to glare down with absolute contempt at his bruised child, drilling the toxic belief into the young boy's mind that winning is his only value. Back in the present, the giant snake lord looms menacingly over the brainwashed hunters, prompting Si Chen to rely on his earbuds' pre-programmed beta band audio to block the hypnosis, realizing his defenseless allies could easily be slaughtered if he doesn't act immediately, which means he must channel his energy and slay this dungeon lord as fast as possible. Just as Si Chen prepares to strike, a hand suddenly grabs his wrist to stop him, revealing a heavily bleeding Gong Ting who quietly tells our boy to wait, clutching his deep chest wound as blood continues to seep through his fingers, dripping heavily onto the cracked stone floor right beside his feet, explaining that he has somehow managed to maintain his sanity in his own way, warning Si Chen that making a reckless move right now will put everyone in immediate danger before pointing toward the dark corners of the cavern and asking if he sees the eggs, revealing dozens of glowing green monster eggs nestled around the giant snake lord's nest, which the lord used to disguise this place as a low-rank lair to lure hunters in, before grimly concluding that they must wait for the beast to come to them. Gong Ting suggests staying hidden and striking together once the giant snake lord draws near, prompting Si Chen to admit he didn't expect the young swordsman to think that far ahead. But our boy immediately shuts down the plan, pointing out a fatal flaw in the strategy, explaining that the dungeon lord doesn't even need to engage them in direct combat, because with a single thought, the beast can force the hypnotized supervisors to turn on themselves, sending a chilling mental image of the cowboy-hatted supervisor pointing a gun at her own head, while the other veteran supervisor begins to violently choke himself with his bare hands. Acting instantly, Si Chen unleashes a blinding flash of lightning to knock out the brainwashed supervisors, completely catching the giant snake lord off guard as its sinister plans are suddenly ruined, leaving the unconscious supervisors safely sprawled across the cavern floor while the beast realizes it's been outsmarted. Enraged by Si Chen's sudden interference, the dungeon lord commands its minions to kill the intruders, prompting a massive glowing-eyed insectoid beast to burst violently from its cocoon, revealing an entire army of C-rank blade mantises crawling down from the cavern walls, surrounding the unconscious supervisors as the terrifying swarm prepares to shred them to pieces. Realizing they are completely cornered, Gong Ting grimly decides it is time for their emergency plan, drawing his glowing sword with a sharp metallic ring as he calls out to our boy, demanding that Si Chen carry the 3 unconscious supervisors safely out of the collapsing lair, leaving Si Chen to stare in absolute shock at the young swordsman's sudden selflessness, as Gong Ting prepares to hold off the entire insectoid swarm alone to buy them time, while the first wave of screeching blade mantises lunges forward to tear him apart. Gong Ting desperately swings his glowing blade, clashing with the razor-sharp claws of a blade mantis, sending sparks flying as he barely parries the monster's lightning-fast counterattack, clutching his sword tightly while blaming himself for dragging everyone into this deadly trap, before dropping to one knee in exhaustion as heavy footsteps approach him from behind. prompting Si-Chen to smile, realizing he completely misjudged the young swordsman's character. As our boy activates his system, initiating a class switch to stand by his side, while Gong Ting continues to pant heavily, determined to clean up his own mess, completely unaware of the crackling lightning energy gathering right behind him, until Si-Chen points out that they both agreed to take on this dangerous trial. Stepping forward as a level 24 lightning assassin ready to tear the swarm apart. Crackling yellow lightning envelops Si-Chen as he stands ready to face the insectoid swarm, while the hooded dungeon lord pulses with a sinister high-frequency pink energy, prompting our boy to confidently declare that he has a solid plan to win, but a bloodied Gong Ting immediately panics, insisting they stand absolutely zero chance, explaining that the terrifying boss is easily a B rank or even an A rank threat, urging Si-Chen to grab the unconscious supervisors and run while he buys time, only for our boy to point out that the dungeon gates are already locked, leaving the young swordsman completely horrified by the realization that escape is impossible, as Si-Chen's eyes glow with a sharp, calculating blue light, realizing that if this beast is truly an A rank threat, he must go all out. Comparing this dungeon lord's insane power to the legendary Phantomane Lion King from the deepest floors, a screeching blade mantis suddenly lunges from the shadows to kick off the chaotic brawl, but Si-Chen blocks the razor-sharp claw barehanded with a crackling burst of lightning, only for another insectoid monster to immediately dive in from his blind spot, prompting a panicked Gong Ting to scream out a warning to his reckless ally. Before the duo stands back-to-back, slicing through the first wave of the swarm together, though dozens more screeching mantises immediately flood the cavern to overwhelm their defenses. Clutching his bleeding chest, Gong Ting grimly admits they are rapidly running out of time, which is exactly when our boy raises his hand to gather a massive surge of electricity, unleashing his devastating electric blade skill to turn these bugs into fried snacks. Unleashing his electric blade skill, Si-Chen fires a barrage of yellow lightning bolts across the cavern, which instantly impale the oncoming blade mantises and spray dark blood all over the walls, as our boy fully activates his flash god state, radiating pure, high-voltage energy. He blitzes through the swarm like a golden streak, tearing the insectoid monsters to shreds, leaving a stunned Gong Ting to stare in absolute disbelief at this impossible display of power, knowing that standard assassin classes are supposed to be useless dead weight against massive swarms. Yet Si-Chen bypasses his class's low base strength by landing flawless, vital point strikes with insane speed, proving his combat technique is easily on par with an elite, top-tier A-rank hunter, which inspires the bleeding swordsman to tighten his grip on his own glowing blade, realizing that they might actually survive this nightmare if they fight together. This giant dungeon lord suddenly pulses with a terrifying, dark pink aura, activating its ultimate enhancement skill to boost the entire insectoid swarm's power, sending their strength and stamina stats skyrocketing through the roof, leaving Gong Ting to stare in horror as the buffed monsters loom over him, but Si-Chen remains completely unfazed, his body crackling with high-voltage yellow lightning, before he leaps high into the air and delivers a devastating downward strike, slicing clean through a massive blade mantis with absolute, effortless precision. Gong Ting watches the beast disintegrate into ash, desperately urging our boy to hang in there, prompting Si-Chen to glance back with a calm, reassuring look of absolute confidence, before he spins around to unleash a flurry of lightning strikes that shred the remaining monsters. Just as Si-Chen finishes off the first wave, another massive insectoid monster creeps up right behind him. But our boy senses the threat instantly, spinning around with a crackling lightning blade raised high, unleashing a rapid-fire flurry of electric slashes that completely shred the beast to pieces, which only serves to make the remaining monsters screech in absolute bloodthirsty fury, prompting another buff blade mantis to violently lunge forward and clash directly with his lightning blade, sending Si-Chen sliding backward across the stone floor as the impact kicks up a massive cloud of dust. Panting heavily, our boy realizes that the Dungeon Lord's buff has pushed these bugs' stats to B rank, making their iron-hard outer shells nearly impossible to pierce with standard physical attacks. But Gong Ting suddenly yells out his gratitude, shouting a thank you to his reliable ally, as the young swordsman unleashes a massive, fiery explosion that sends his own strength stats skyrocketing. Meanwhile, a young woman named Anna Zhu arrives at a rental apartment carrying a grocery bag, greeting Si-Yoon, who is waiting inside with the adorable white beast Leo on her shoulder, discussing how Si-Chen is running late and hasn't heard the big news about her academy exam, only to realize they are completely out of garlic sauce for their celebratory dinner, prompting Si-Yoon to head out to the local store with Leo to grab some quick supplies, leaving the neighborhood convenience store after successfully paying for her bag of snacks, cradling Leo close to her chest as she happily praises him for being such an angel, while the little white beast quietly munches on a cookie inside her cozy jacket, walking down the street in high spirits as she promises him even more treats next time, completely unaware of a mysterious looming shadow watching her every move from the dark alleyway. Two shady thugs lurk in a dark alleyway, keeping their eyes locked on their target, holding up a photo of Si-Yoon to confirm they have the right girl, before communicating through an earpiece to wait until she is completely out of camera range. While Si-Yoon continues walking down the street, her footsteps echoing softly in the quiet night, completely unaware that the heavy footsteps of her stalkers are keeping perfect pace right behind her. Sensing the hostile presence, Si-Yoon glances back and realizes she has been followed since leaving the store. while the little white beast Leo growls protectively from inside her cozy jacket, prompting her to gently hold him close and whisper for him to stay hidden, her expression hardening as she prepares to face whatever trouble these thugs are about to bring. Meanwhile, back in the dungeon, a panting Chen prepares to unleash his next big move. While Chen struggles to find a way to crack open the monster's iron-hard outer shells, Gong Ting screams out a quick thank you to our boy for buying him enough time, as a massive pillar of fire erupts around him, triggering a high-risk stat boost, pushing his physical strength to the absolute limit as he prepares his ultimate move, unleashing his devastating Extreme Blaze Rift skill to incinerate everything in his path, which instantly vaporizes the oncoming wave of blade mantises into absolute nothingness, sending a massive wave of destructive fire directly toward the giant Snake Lord, engulfing the terrifying dungeon boss in a blinding column of pure white-hot heat, before a massive explosion rocks the entire cavern, leaving nothing but smoke and rubble, leaving Gong Ting to collapse onto his sword completely drained of all his stamina. Gong Ting pants heavily as the smoke begins to clear from his massive firestorm, looking out over the scorched cavern floor littered with the charred remains of the swarm, only for a chilling, mocking laugh to echo through the burning ruins of the chamber, prompting both Chen and Gong Ting to freeze in absolute, cold, sweet horror, as the giant multi-headed Snake Lord emerges completely unscathed from the fading wall of fire, leaving the exhausted swordsman to stare in utter despair at his useless ultimate attack, realizing that his absolute best effort failed to leave even a single scratch on the boss, while Chen's eyes narrow sharply as he analyzes the battlefield with calculating precision, noticing that the boss absorbed the energy of its own demon eggs to form an impenetrable barrier, leaving a bloodied Gong Ting to collapse against his sword, completely out of options. Looking down at the exhausted swordsman, Chen casually offers to strike a quick deal, promising him the first-place rank while demanding the entire $1 million prize money for himself, as our boy grips his weapon tightly, adding a single, non-negotiable condition to their contract, warning Gong Ting to keep his mouth shut about the terrifying power he is about to witness, leaving the bloodied swordsman completely speechless as he realizes his ally is a legendary dual-class user, while the pink energy of the fallen insectoid monsters begins to float up from the cavern floor, activating his devastating ossuary collapse skill to drain the stamina and strength from the nearby corpses, triggering a massive explosion of purple energy that sends his combat stats skyrocketing through the roof, leaving a stunned Gong Ting to watch in absolute silence as the shockwave rattles the entire cavern, while the hooded dungeon lord stares back, finally sensing a threat worthy of its full attention. Exhaling a sharp breath, Chen's mouth twists into a grin showing razor-sharp fangs, with his stamina and strength stats completely maxed out in his terrifying demonic form, but the hooded dungeon lord immediately counters by chanting a dark, ominous spell, unleashing a massive wave of hypnotic energy that ripples violently across the entire cavern, forcing a helpless Gong Ting to clutch his head in absolute mind-splitting agony, though our boy stands completely unfazed as the mental assault washes harmlessly over him, leaving the ancient boss utterly shocked that its signature hypnosis trick has completely failed, prompting the desperate beast to immediately charge up its ultimate high-frequency sonic strike, unleashing a devastating sonic hell attack that threatens to shatter the entire cavern to pieces, while Chen stands firm to shield his kneeling ally from the deafening shockwaves. Stepping forward with absolute resolve, our boy takes a heavy ground-shaking stride, walking directly into the blinding red aura of the giant Snake Lord's ultimate attack, leaving the hooded dungeon boss utterly bewildered that its mental assault has done zero damage, prompting the panicked beast to command its giant serpent heads to tear him to shreds. But Chen merely tightens his grip on his massive glowing crescent blade, delivering a devastating upward slash that cleaves clean through the first lunging serpent head, sending a massive spray of dark blood across the cavern as the severed head crashes down, only for two more massive serpent heads to immediately dive down from above, which our boy meets with a cold, glowing glare as he prepares his next strike, while the desperate dungeon lord desperately screams that its ultimate defense is completely invincible. Mocking the boss's supposedly invincible defense, Chen leaps high into the air, fully unleashing his maxed-out strength stats as his demonic eyes glow with pure malice, bringing his blade down with enough force to shatter the boss's barrier into tiny green shards, leaving the ancient dungeon lord completely dumbfounded as its ultimate defense is instantly obliterated. While Gong Ting watches from the sidelines, his jaw dropping in absolute disbelief at this impossible feat, wondering what kind of monster his ally truly is as Chen winds up for a final strike, activating his devastating tri-phase Calamity Hypermass mode to drop like a meteor, slamming directly into the dungeon lord and triggering a massive explosion of dust and debris, leaving the defeated boss pinned to the cracked floor, gasping in absolute denial, as Chen coldly demands to know its connection to the mysterious entity known as Wrath. Pinned to the floor, the defeated dungeon lord gasps in absolute shock, prompting Chen to narrow his glowing red eyes and coldly demand answers. But the broken boss merely stammers about its inability to help free its master, leaving our boy to realize that this mysterious demon King Wrath was actually sealed away, before the dying beast suddenly bursts into a fit of maniacal, echoing laughter, screaming that the return of the Supreme Demon King is absolutely inevitable, promising that his dark army will rise again to slaughter the entire human race until its physical form completely disintegrates, leaving only a glowing core floating in the air which Cheon immediately grabs, initiating a system-guided devouring process to absorb its power, successfully completing the absorption to unlock the formidable stats and skills of the Flora Mage. After absorbing the core, Cheon officially hits level 25 and secures his new Flora Mage class, but his mind immediately drifts to the chilling realization that the Demon King Wrath descended long ago, leaving him to silently ponder what other massive secrets are still hidden from his knowledge, until a sudden coughing sound from behind snaps him right back to the current reality. Clutching his chest, a heavily bloodied Gong Ting admits he never expected his ally to be a dual-class user, formally conceding defeat and declaring our boy the absolute winner of this high-stakes academy assessment, promising to keep his mouth shut and take every single secret of this battle to his grave, before the sheer exhaustion catches up to him, forcing him to violently cough up a fresh spray of blood. Collapsing heavily against the cracked stone wall as his body completely runs out of steam, while Cheon calmly reassures him that the guild raid team will arrive to rescue them shortly. Suddenly, a sharp mental shockwave hits Cheon, causing his eyes to widen in surprise, as a strange glowing pink eye flashes directly in his mind's eye, revealing a vision of a mysterious, well-dressed man surrounded by dark, writhing purple tentacles, prompting our boy to realize that this mental link is actually targeting his sister Si-yoon, while the creepy, green-eyed mastermind behind the vision stares back with a sinister, knowing grin. At that exact moment, a sharp, tentacle-like shadow suddenly lunges directly at Si-yoon and Leo, who are currently walking down a quiet, narrow alleyway completely cut off from the main street, leaving her to glance back nervously, fully aware that these thugs have been tracking her every step, while the lead stalker creeps closer with a smug, highly punchable grin plastered across his face, prompting the little white beast Leo to growl protectively as he senses the oncoming danger. Clutching her little white beast Leo tightly, Si-yoon whispers for him to stay hidden, realizing that they are about to embark on a highly dangerous game of cat and mouse, knowing that her best chance of survival lies in finding a densely packed public area. So she immediately heads toward the bustling main shopping street to lose her persistent stalkers, planning to use the massive evening crowd as the perfect cover to slip away unnoticed, while the frustrated thugs aggressively shove bystanders aside to keep their target in sight. But our clever girl uses their brief distraction to quietly blend into the sea of people, executing a flawless escape while her pursuers are completely blinded by the chaotic crowd, leaving the clueless thugs to look around in absolute panic as she completely vanishes, safely escaping down a quiet side alley while the angry stalkers realize they lost her. Thinking she finally shook them off, Si-yoon suddenly realizes her stamina is completely depleted, before her brief relief instantly vanishes when a heavy footstep echoes right in front of her, revealing a smug, white-haired smoker who has apparently been waiting at her doorstep all day, forcing our terrified girl back against the stairs as she demands to know their identities, while the two thugs from earlier catch up, laughing at her futile attempt to escape. Trapped in a tight alleyway, she desperately tries to bolt past her relentless pursuers, only for a sudden blast of freezing magic to sweep across the concrete floor, instantly binding her ankle in solid ice and sending her crashing hard onto the pavement, leaving her to look up helplessly as a thug with a glowing fist looms over her, warning her to behave herself unless she wants things to get a whole lot worse. This drooling thug with the nose ring closes in on his cornered prey, leaving Si-yoon to scream in terror as she cowers on the cold pavement, only for a massive purple glowing paw to suddenly smash directly into the thug's face, sending him flying backward through the air in a spectacular spray of blood, which leaves the white-haired smoker completely stunned by the sudden violent turn of events. As a massive glowing paw cracks the concrete with absolute ground-shaking force, a giant, majestic white lion draped in crackling purple energy steps up to protect her, leaving our terrified girl to stare up at her savior in absolute wide-eyed shock, realizing that her tiny pet Leo has just transformed into this legendary mythical beast, while the bloodied thug screams in sheer terror, wondering where this monster came from. Standing before the terrified thugs, the massive white lion radiates a menacing purple glowing aura, letting out a deafening, ground-shaking roar that echoes wildly through the narrow alleyway, prompting the panicked, hooded thug to desperately charge up his glowing yellow fist magic. But the giant beast suddenly shrinks back down in a flurry of pink sparkles, collapsing onto the concrete floor as a tiny dizzy cub with swirly eyes, leaving a completely horrified Si-yoon to scream out his name in sheer panic as she quickly scoops her exhausted, unconscious little pet back into her arms, while the white-haired smoker thug scoffs in disappointment at the pathetic short-lived transformation. Suddenly, thick, writhing green vines burst violently through the concrete pavement from below, as the smug, white-haired boss steps forward, his hand glowing with dark nature magic. As the thorny green vines wrap tightly around her, Si-yoon clutches her exhausted pet, backing away in sheer terror as the white-haired boss corners her against the wall, desperately screaming at the menacing thug to stay away from her and her pet, while the cold-hearted boss demands she hand over the valuable beast without wasting time. threatening to take the creature by force if she refuses to cooperate with them. At that exact moment, a powerful system notification flashes directly in Chen's mind, triggering his Beastbind skill to instantly warp himself directly to his contracted pet's location, crashing into the narrow alleyway with enough explosive force to send the thugs flying, shattering the concrete pavement and nearby metal lockers into a million tiny pieces. Before Chen calmly steps through the dust, asking his terrified sister if she is alright, this white-haired boss stares in absolute disbelief, wondering where this random kid suddenly came from, while a trembling, Siyun explains that these thugs are actually powerful awakened hunters. But Chen merely offers a calm, reassuring smile, telling her not to worry, which instantly triggers the furious boss to slam his glowing green hand forward in rage, cursing his own carelessness for letting his guard down against a mere teenager, as massive, thorny green vines erupt around him to fuel his explosive nature magic, screaming with absolute mouthfulness that he is going to take our boy's head, while Chen clenches his fist and tells his sister to stay safely behind him, promising to clean up this pathetic mess in a matter of seconds. While in another part of the city, a group of thugs brutally beats a helpless victim. This orange-haired bully screams in absolute fury, demanding to know why his victim won't behave, ordering his massive lackey to beat the helpless kid half to death right on the spot. But a sudden trembling voice from behind commands them to stop their brutal assault, revealing a young, terrified Siyu Xian clutching a metal pipe to defend her big brother, which only makes the orange-haired bully sneer in utter amusement at her pathetic attempt, prompting a pinned-down, bruised young Chen to desperately scream for them to stay away, reminding the heartless bully of his promise to never lay a single finger on his sister, only for the smug jerk to laugh, openly declaring that he is breaking their deal, cackling maniacally as he decides to teach his arrogant little cousin a harsh lesson, while his heavy lackey grabs a solid brick to crush the helpless boy's hand. Before the heavy brick can crush his hand, Chen grabs it and shatters it completely, sending the massive lackey flying backward into the shelves as the bullies watch in shock, leaving our boy to glare at his cousin with pure, unadulterated rage in his eyes, as he lunges forward to protect his sister, completely ignoring his own severe injuries, screaming at the top of his lungs because they dared to threaten his family, while his orange-haired cousin's smug expression instantly morphs into a look of absolute terror, as Chen slams a heavy stone directly into the bully's face for breaking his word, sending the screaming cousin crashing hard onto the concrete floor in a spray of blood, leaving the bleeding bully to cry out in panic, calling our boy a complete lunatic, while Chen stands protectively in front of Yun, calmly telling her not to be afraid. Back in the present, Chen stands protectively in front of his trembling sister, confidently assuring her that he will clean up this pathetic mess in no time, prompting the three hostile awakened thugs to immediately charge down the narrow alleyway, leaving a terrified Yun to wonder how her brother can possibly survive, while the lightning-fisted thug screams in absolute fury as he closes the distance, throwing a high-voltage punch directly at our boy's head to end things quickly, only for Chen to effortlessly counter, shattering the thug's arm in a spectacular explosion, leaving his sister to watch the brutal display in absolute wide-eyed shock, while the second thug leaps high into the air with a glowing blue dagger, only for Chen to casually catch his wrist mid-air, completely stopping the strike. Before the dagger-wielding thug can even react, Chen delivers a devastating kick to his jaw, sending him crashing violently into the alleyway trash bins in a bloody heap, prompting the white-haired boss to immediately retaliate by whipping a massive thorny green vine forward. But our boy barely even blinks as the deadly plant weapon streaks toward him, effortlessly dodging the strike as the explosive vine shatters the brick wall behind him. Infuriated by the easy dodge, the boss screams that he is nothing but a snot-nosed student, channeling his glowing green nature magic to summon an absolute storm of sharp, thorny branches, while Chen merely locks his glowing red eyes onto his target with absolute calm, weaving through the chaotic barrage of deadly vines with effortless lightning-fast acrobatic maneuvers, before leaping high into the air to close the distance on the completely shocked boss. This white-haired boss panics in absolute disbelief, completely unable to track our boy's insane movement speed, while Siyun suddenly remembers a crucial detail about her brother that she somehow managed to forget, recalling that Chen literally became the absolute champion of the entire university entrance exam, before his devastating fist connects directly with the boss's face in a brutal spray of blood, launching the arrogant leader backward like a broken doll to prove his overwhelming power, as the boss crashes violently into the brick wall, kicking up a massive cloud of dust, leaving him completely unconscious on the pavement while our boy stands there without a single scratch, with the second thug still slumped in the trash, completely neutralized from the brief scuffle, and the third thug sits bleeding against the wall, thoroughly regretting his life choices, prompting Chen to calmly tell his sister to take Leo and head straight back home. Chen tells his sister he will head home right after dealing with these thugs, prompting a relieved Siyun to quickly nod and clutch her tiny pet Leo tightly, while the white-haired boss slowly wakes up with blood pouring down his face, groaning in absolute agony as he tries to process what just happened to him, only to realize that all three of them have been tied tightly to a stone pillar, leaving the panicked thugs to scream and demand to know where they have been dragged, while Chen calmly stands before them, demanding to know who is funding their gang. But the bloody boss merely scoffs, refusing to ever rat out his high-paying clients, prompting our boy to sigh as a dark swirling energy begins to envelop him, activating his class class switching system to prepare a much more painful interrogation method. Switching his class to the Flora Mage, Chen prepares to unleash a terrifying interrogation spell, forcing the tied-up boss to watch in horror as his own stolen nature magic turns against him, as a massive thorny green vine suddenly bursts violently through the concrete floor below, leaving the other two tied-up thugs to scream in absolute terror at their leader's impending doom, while our boy locks his glowing pink eyes onto his target, calmly targeting his legs first, as the sharp thorny vine instantly impales the screaming boss directly through his thigh, before Chen coldly announces that his arms are next on the chopping block, driving another brutal spike straight through the boss's hand in a spectacular spray of blood, declaring with absolute malice that this is the exact price they must pay for daring to threaten his precious sister Shi-Yun and her helpless little pet. This bleeding thug screams in absolute horror, demanding to know what our boy did to their boss, but Chen merely locks his glowing pink eyes onto him, declaring he is next, sending a wave of pure terror through the tied-up thugs as the dark shadows loom, prompting the terrified lackey to instantly break, crying out that he will confess everything, revealing that the mastermind behind the entire hit is actually a wealthy director's son, a spoiled brat named Jin Duoxin, currently partying at a high-end rooftop pool tower. Meanwhile, a smug partygoer mocks Jin Duoxin for getting rejected by the exact same girl twice, laughing hysterically at how the self-proclaimed school idol completely failed to bag an underclassman, leaving Jin Duoxin to seethe in silent fury, swearing he will make her pay tonight, before he angrily storms off to the restroom, telling his friends to stop bothering him. Standing at a urinal in the high-end restroom, Jin Duoxin tries to wash away his humiliation, when a sudden, ominous flicker of the overhead lights immediately catches his attention, prompting him to curse in frustration, thinking even the building's electricity is mocking him now, only to freeze in sheer terror as a dark, menacing figure silently materializes right behind him, revealing Chen locking his glowing red eyes onto him, coldly confirming his target's identity. Meanwhile, down in the security room, two guards chat idly about the wealthy brats upstairs, leaning in close as one guard whispers a dark rumor about the rooftop partygoers, leaving his colleagues sweating in absolute disbelief at the horrifying allegations being discussed, as they detail how a female student was driven to suicide after being ruined by them, exposing the absolute ocean of filthy, buried crimes committed by these untouchable rich kids. Jin Duoxin spins around in absolute shock, demanding to know who this intruder is, threatening to call the police immediately since the entire rooftop is strictly closed off. But his frantic rant is cut short by the sudden ringing of his phone, displaying an incoming call from none other than his hired thug, Black Hide, only for Chen to calmly hold up the vibrating device with a cold stare, leaving the spoiled brat to scream in terror as he recognizes his hitman's phone, demanding to know what happened to his hired muscle while our boy crushes the device, sending Jin Duoxin stumbling backward in pure panic as he begs him to stay away, before a devastating blow shatters the restroom wall, sending the bully flying through the air, crashing violently onto the hard floor outside amidst a shower of broken glass. Shards of shattered glass rain down as Jin Duoxin crashes onto the hard floor, leaving the bleeding brat to scream in absolute agony as he begs for help, but his desperate cries are cut short by a sudden wave of pure terror, while his wealthy, half-naked friends floating in the pool look up in complete confusion, watching a dark, menacing silhouette slowly step through the shattered wall toward them, sending Jin Duoxin into a frantic, tearful panic as he scrambles backward on his hands, demanding to know what kind of lunatic would dare to target him like this, before trying to hide behind his father's powerful status as the hospital director, screaming that his family will have our boy brutally killed for this insult, only for Chen to coldly silence him with a single glowing glare. Jin Duoxin's eyes glow with a terrifying pink light as blood streams down his face, leaving him trembling on the floor like a broken doll under our boy's oppressive aura, while Chen stares down at him with absolute coldness, commanding him to pick it up, prompting the terrified brat's hand to shake violently as he reaches for a jagged shard of glass, triggering a dark reminder of how these wealthy monsters use their status to ruin innocent lives. Recalling the tragic moment a female student took her own life to escape their torment, only for a drunken Jin Duoxin to casually dismiss the tragedy without a single shred of remorse, smugly bragging that his powerful father would easily cover up the murder on the autopsy report. It turns out he even paid a massive sum to make Si-Yun suffer a similar fate, but this time he messed with the wrong brother, who forces him to squeeze the razor-sharp glass. Under the absolute control of Chen's mental magic, Jin Duoxin raises the glass shard, preparing to plunge the razor-sharp weapon into his own flesh without a single shred of hesitation. But the scene suddenly shifts back to the demon lair where Gongting sits slumped, coughing up blood as he promises to tell everyone the truth about who saved them, only for Chen's eyes to suddenly flash with a brilliant warning pink light, as a powerful, menacing presence suddenly materializes behind him in a swirl of dark energy, forcing our boy to instantly realize that his sister Shi-Yun is in grave danger, prompting him to immediately activate his Star Beastmaster class to initiate a stellar leap, vanishing in a blinding flash of pink and white light right in front of Gongting, leaving the injured warrior completely dumbfounded that anyone could possess multiple classes at once. Gongting struggles to process how many secrets our boy is actually hiding, wondering what other insane powers the mysterious student might be keeping under wraps, before the sudden sound of heavy footsteps echoes through the rocky cavern, as a frantic rescue team led by a stressed academy official rushes in, scrambling down the steep rocky slopes to reach the battered survivors below, with the medics immediately applying healing magic to patch up Gongting's wounds, while the official marvels at how they survived a B-rank demon lair lord. As the other medics successfully wake up the comatose Proctor Ma Long, prompting the search party to wonder where on earth Cheon disappeared to, leaving the angry official to blame the inspection agency for this massive disaster. Gongting seethes in absolute frustration, swearing to fire every single incompetent guard once he escapes. But the corrupt academy official merely smiles, realizing this disaster is actually a golden opportunity, explaining to his subordinates how they can easily spin this tragic incident to their advantage by painting Gong Ting as the sole heroic savior who stepped up to resolve everything, prompting the injured warrior to speak up and reveal that Cheon was the true hero, only for the official to suddenly grab his bandaged shoulder with a crushing, painful grip, leaning in close to coldly whisper that he will play along with the official narrative, while the other academy staff members look away, completely powerless to stop the blatant corruption, as the white-haired examiner watches in silent disgust, knowing the truth is being buried, while the official squeezes Gong Ting's fresh wounds, forcing him to accept the stolen credit. Gong Ting grits his teeth in absolute agony as the corrupt official forces him to accept the stolen credit, leaving the smug official to walk away while declaring that tomorrow's graduation ceremony will be his stage. But the scene quickly shifts to a cozy rented apartment where 3 glass soda bottles clink together, celebrating Siyun's incredible achievement of getting accepted into the prestigious International Central Art Academy, as her supportive friend happily pats her shoulder, predicting she will become a legendary artist, while Cheon calmly sits back and takes a long, refreshing sip of his soda, prompting his cute little sister to pout, wondering why her big brother does not look surprised at all, only for our boy to smile warmly, silently recalling that she received this exact same letter in his previous life, while her friend sighs in pure envy over her once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to study in the Shanghai nation, leaving Siyun to look down in worry, suddenly stressing over the incredibly high cost of living there. Setting down his soda, Cheon tells his sister not to worry about the expenses, casually revealing that he will also be working in the Shanghai nation after graduation, leaving Shiyun and her friend completely shocked by his sudden massive career update. Before the girls burst into a joyful celebration, thrilled that they can all live together, while our boy smiles softly, silently vowing to protect his sister's bright future this time, ensuring she never has to abandon her artistic dreams like she did before. Later, washing away his fatigue in the shower, Cheon reflects on securing his sister's safety, recalling his deal with Gong Ting to claim the 1 million yuan prize money tomorrow. But as he sits on his bed, a dark, pressing thought begins to weigh heavily on his mind, realizing he must head to the Shanghai nation immediately to track down the sealed demon Wrath. Before heading out, Cheon realizes he still needs a trustworthy teammate for his mission, while elsewhere, a mysterious blonde woman informs a pink-haired man about a creature called the Devourer, prompting the pink-haired man to sip his tea calmly, asking her to elaborate on the situation, as she explains how she rushed to the scene the moment she received the intel, presenting crime scene photos showing destroyed security cameras and faint traces of blood, warning him that the monster targets powerful awakeners and is rapidly climbing the ranks, leaving her to conclude that the dangerous beast is growing stronger at a terrifying rate, while the pink-haired man pours more tea, finding the timing of this threat highly interesting, before she slides another photo across the table, promising an even more intriguing update, revealing that the Devour's latest crime scene was located right in a low-rent housing district. This exact alleyway is located less than 100 meters from Cheon's apartment, prompting the pink-haired man to narrow his eyes in deep, silent contemplation, as the blonde woman points out they have no visual evidence of the Devourer, leaving her to present 2 very distinct theories on who the monster is targeting, while the pink-haired man calmly raises his steaming teacup to his lips, wondering if the terrifying devourer they are hunting could actually be Cheon himself.